Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Had Death Note in Highschool DXD World Part 2. Before we start, please go support LineCrowBell13 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Chapter 8. After the events that occurred after Kakabiel's failed attempt to start a war, many things happened. One was the meeting with L in order to meet Light Yagami, who was the main suspect of being Kira. At this meeting they discussed how they would make the first contact with Light Yagami, so in the end L decided that the best thing would be for him to meet Light at the opening ceremony of the university, where Light would study this year. But now we find ourselves in this peculiar situation. "I am Vali the Hakuryuko Vanishing Dragon," said the silver-haired man in front of the brown-haired man who cared little about meeting him, although Drake and Ryuk were another matter. "Crush it, mate," the Welsh dragon told him. "When do you plan to cut him into pieces? Because from here it's clear that Issei is underestimating you," said the Shinigami with boredom. "I don't know why you're here, but I'm in a hurry," said the brown-haired boy seriously. "I'll be brief, where do you think you are in the world rankings?" Then he noticed the doubtful face of the brown-haired boy. "Even with your balance breaker, you must be between the 1000th and 1500th places, maybe more," he said boredly. "I don't care about that, you know, because I have never shown my true power, and in fact I myself don't know my own limits," said the brown-haired boy seriously. "If it weren't for the fact that he's half demon, I would kill him right now with my death note, although I could still strangle him, and he wouldn't be able to do anything." Lol, Ryuk said the last thing in mockery, earning a half smile from Issei. "Maybe that's true, but anyway he was interrupted by a sword at his neck. "I won't let you start a battle with the Sekiryuite here," Kiba said as he looked at him intensely, while behind him, Middle had spears of light in his hand and Akeno had lightning bolts in her hands. "You didn't do anything against Kakabiel, what makes you think you have a chance?" the silver-haired boy said boredly. Issei waved his hand and everyone stood behind Issei. "Let me finish talking, this matter is between him and me. Hyoudou Issei, you are a diamond in the rough asking to be polished, and with the proper training you could become strong enough, or don't you think so?" Ria's Gremory, he said, while the Redeed stood next to the brown-haired boy and raised her hand in a gesture of boredom. "I trust in my servant's strength and I know what he is capable of doing, so I ask you to refrain from fighting him, since he does not usually have a fight for more than 10 seconds, and that is even though I have never seen him fight with his full strength," said Riaz with a serious look. "Interesting," said the silver-haired man. "I just came to say hello today, so I'll see you at the Hyoudou Issei faction meeting," he said as he walked away from there. What a fool, if only he had noticed the ground, said Akeno, while on the ground where the silver-haired boy was standing some hand marks were on the ground. After that, the brown-haired boy and company left the place towards the academy, where upon arriving at the occult research club, L was found at Ria's desk, sitting strangely and looking at the others. "Hello Issei, I was waiting for you, there is something I would like to talk to you about, rather than you analyzing this photographs and telling me what you think about it," said L while giving Issei 3. "This guy who wants me now, I don't like him at all," said Ryuk. Issei took them and noticed that they were very strange notes, so after observing them he gave them to L in a certain order. "I'm not that stupid, I know what you're trying to get at," Issei thought. "One is missing, but here it says, did you know that the god of death only eats apples, so I notice something is missing or they are in another order, which would be, did you know that the god of death only eats apples? It's weird, but in any case I think something is missing," said Issei analytically. "Actually it's apples and manga, but it doesn't matter," said Ryuk bored. "That's right, one is missing, and it's this one," said L giving him another photograph in this order. "It says, L, did you know that the god of death only eats apples that have red hands?" said L seriously. "Strange message, I don't find any logic in it. What is Kira trying to get at?" Issei said with genuine curiosity. 1% chance that Issei is Kira, but his deductive skills are extraordinary, although that's why I still think he's Kira, even though Light Yagami also deduced it at the same speed. He didn't do it even faster than Issei, apart from finding the real message the first time, while Issei deciphered the fake first and then recapitulated the original later, although he took into account that the fake was the real one, which makes me believe that he is less likely to be Kira, L thought. "Hello Earth, calling L," Issei said while waving his hand in front of L, who reacted confused. "Akeno-senpai, I'm asking if you want some tea and cookies," Issei said while eating a cookie calmly, while laughter and the others drank tea. "Haha, this one is in his own world, did he remember an old love?" Ryuk said while reading the Arifureta manga in the corner of the room. "Oh yes please, and could you give me some sugar?" said L bewildered. "You were staring into space for 3 minutes, L, what were you thinking about?" Issei asked. "I ruled out the possibility that you are Kira, although I still have my suspicions. I think it's 1% that you are Kira, however, I suspect Light Yagami is 7% likely to be Kira," L said as he added an exaggerated amount of sugar to his tea. I understand, and speaking of Light Yagami, did he agree to work on the investigation? Issei asked as the others watched intently. That's right, he accepted, although the method was not what I expected because Director Yagami suffered a cardiac arrest due to stress, and after meeting him at the hospital, Director Yagami declared that I am LL said boredom. By the way, who was the silver-haired guy outside of school that you met? He asked again, but noticed that the atmosphere became tense. He is Vali the Vanishing Dragon, my sworn enemy, and as I already told you I am destined to fight him to the death, Issei said calmly. Or rather an arrogant idiot who is going to die if he doesn't stop underestimating his opponents lol. And why do you take it so calmly? He said from what you told me while ago that they should fight to the death, said L. It's not about being arrogant, but that's because he's no match for me, Issei said seriously. It's true, but I'm more disappointed that you didn't kill him on the spot, although I suppose it was to avoid a conflict with those birds, Ryuk said, referring to the fallen angels. I see that next, but he was interrupted when Sona Sitri came running in with a serious face. Riaz, you must see this, he said, turning on the TV and putting the accurate channel. All the reporters and crew here are hosts of Kira, however we have a professional obligation to share this message with all of you. We assure you that this is not a farce and that the television station is not reporting it for sensational purposes, said the reporter on TV. Kira's hostages, what does this mean? Riaz said angrily. It won't happen again, context sound. 4 days ago, Sakura TV's programming director received 4 tapes. After careful examination, there is no doubt that they are from Kira. The first tape contains the death predictions of 2 criminals who were recently arrested. As predicted at the time that Kira specified, they both died suddenly from a heart attack. If what they said is true, that is something only Kira can do, thought L. The fake Kira again, is he an idiot and he wants to get caught? No wait, this is not the way the other Kira acts, do N''T tell me, there's a third Kira, Issei thought. Kira gave instructions to broadcast the second tape today at 5:50 p.m. and we are going to comply with her demands. This tape is to demonstrate her powers by predicting another death. We also know that it contains a message from Kira for all of humanity, and now comes the video. Everyone was watching the television in the club room attentively, where Kira mentioned the death of a host on another channel. Riaz, upon hearing this, summoned another television and put on the program where said host appeared, who was dead. Then another reporter from another channel was mentioned, which Riaz looked for, and he was also found dead. After this, L called Watari to stop the broadcast. After half an hour, an APN agent was seen who died on the spot. After this, L became furious but remained calm despite shaking with anger. Later, a police truck destroyed the entrance of the place and entered the building, but a few minutes later a patrol car arrived at the place, parking outside, and the 2 officers died on the spot, while L called the local police chief to avoid more unnecessary deaths. I'm leaving, Issei, I'll contact you later to help with the investigation, see you Miss Gremory, said L as Watari came for him to leave from there. What was L doing here, Riaz? Asked Sona. Because Issei is his contract and at the same time his second suspect of being Kira, Riaz said seriously. Sona Sitri looked at Issei analytically, but shook her head and left the place. Riaz sighed internally, after seeing how Sona came to the conclusion that Issei was not Kira. Akeno remembered something she had to do, so she left in a transportation circle. After that everyone left, although Riaz asked Issei that the Archangel Michael asked to meet with the Sekiryu and Akeno, so Issei went with Riaz to the Himashima temple, where Akeno lived, to meet the Archangel Michael at the entrance. After entering, he declared that he came to give Issei the sacred dragon-slaying sword Ascalon, as this was both a gesture of peace between the factions and assurance in case the Hikryuka was a potential enemy. Drake suggested to Issei to combine the sword with the boosted gear, so Issei set out to do so successfully, but then he felt a strange increase in power, which in the definition of the Archangel was quite a lot, and he attributed it to the sword, but Ryuk knew it was for something else. What other secrets will the Death Note have if just by joining the boosted gear it increased the power brutally in Issei? Now with that sword, it must have given him even more power, haha, and I have a feeling it will be something good, although not for the Hikryuka of course, hahaha, Ryuk thought in his mind. Chapter 9. After receiving the sacred dragon-slaying sword Ascalon, Issei decided to put the new power he acquired into practice, and what Drake told him left him stunned. Apparently Issei was immune to the sacred elements and most of the Dragon Slayer armaments, however there was an even more disturbing detail, and that was that he suffered a change in his body, since he ended up being half dragonized by the Dragon Slayer effects, but that was not the only thing. Part of him was a kind of sacred demon, and he did not understand why, but his demon wings had angel feathers at the tips, and apparently now he had a pair more of wings, these being dragon. The range of his Diclonius powers was increased 8 times, giving him a new range of 512 meters, and his impact resistance increased dramatically, giving him an even stronger defense than before. If speed and physical strength did not increase as much as the rest, but he did gain a small increase, reaching speeds close to Kiba's and strength close to Kaneko's, although it is not that he will need it as much, since his vectors also increased, being possible to use 128 vectors at a time. The day after his training was observation day, where Issei's parents came to see him, which is why we found ourselves in this situation. The day in art class we will make clay figures, it can be whatever you want, be it an animal or any object, anything is valid, said the teacher, while everyone looked at the clay cube in front of them. Come on Asia-chan, you can do it, said Issei's mother. Come on, give your best, children, said Issei's father with a camera and smiling. Ah, how embarrassing, said Asia with her hands on her face. Whatever, I'll do, Issei muttered. Hey Issei, why don't you make me? Haha, it would be fun to see a figurine of me, haha, Ryuk said with a smile while standing in front of Issei, who smiled at the idea and began to shape the clay and ended up making Ryuk perfectly. Hi, Hyoudou-kun, the teacher said, impressing himself, you are truly a genius son, I'm sure your parents are very proud of you, said the teacher, while Issei's parents looked at the clay figure in detail, noticing that it was made with enthusiasm. Hey Issei, I'll trade it for my figure, Motohama said quite happily. Forget that rubbish, I'll give you 100 yen for it, Mitsuda said with the money in hand. My father is a collector, and that figure is perfect for his collection. I'll give you 1,000,000 yen, he said to black-haired man. Wow, I didn't think he would be so popular, go ahead and accept the offer, Issei, I like that boy, Ryuk said happily. Issei handed him the clay figure, and he gave him the money. Why that boy had so much money with him was a mystery, until they remembered that he was the son of a politician in Kuo. Look honey, our son can become a great sculptor, said Issei's mother very happily. If he is a good son, I am proud of him, he said with a lot of pride in his voice, and it was clear that he was really proud of his son. Nai-san, look what I made, said Asia, showing a clay figure representing an angel. It's very pretty, Asia, don't you expect what? She said, impressed, and it was no small thing, said Angel was a complete beauty and was very well made and in fact seemed to surpass her clay figure in details and everything. Asia-chan is also a genius, there is no doubt, love, we have two talented children, said Issei's mother, leaving everyone impressed. There is no doubt about that, said Issei's father with pride and great happiness. At the end of class, everyone gathered at the occult club where Riaz, seeing the image, reminded her of someone until Sona ran into the club room while hiding in the next room, but suddenly a black-haired girl with pigtails and a Mahou Shoujo outfit came in screaming. Sona-tan, where are you? Then she noticed Riaz. Hello Riaz-chan, how are you? She said happily, but when she saw the clay figure she got upset like never before. What the hell, Gabriel now makes clay figures of herself. She said angrily while Riaz finally recognized her and was even more shocked to see the enormous similarity of her with the real Gabriel. Asia, where did you get the inspiration for this clay figure? Riaz asked curiously as the pigtailed girl looked at her expectantly. This is what I made of the angel I once dreamed of in the church back in Italy. When they branded me a heretic I dreamed of her, and in my dream she told me that it would be good for me to be strong, and that she was sorry she hadn't arrived in time, although I don't understand why, she said, looking into their eyes with innocence. You say you dreamed that the Archangel Gabriel came to see you when you were excommunicated from the church and told you she was sorry to be so late, said the girl with pigtails. This is my theory, said Issei, calling everyone's attention. Asia, it's possible that it wasn't a dream, and probably she wanted to avoid your tragedy of being excommunicated, but she didn't arrive in time, and she regretted not being able to help you, so when she knew that you would be alone, she asked you to be strong, said Issei, while Sona carelessly opened the door and whispered incredible. Hearing Sona's whisper, the girl ran to the door and hugged her tightly. Sona-tan, I found you, he said with great joy. Ansama Nuo, he said as he began to squeeze her in his arms. Who is she? Issei asked with doubt. Seraphol Leviathan, one of the four Yondai Mao of the underworld, Ria said with a drop of sweat on the back of her neck. You can call me Sera-chan, she said, doing a magical girl pose. I understand, Sera-chan, said Issei, making the Mao happy. See, he can tell me that and he's not afraid, said the pigtailed Mao while talking to Sona. I'm not Hyoudou, she said, annoyed. Well, forget it, I have things to do, said Sona, leaving the room, and the Mao followed her, saying goodbye to the club quickly. Later they met with Ria's older brother, the Mao Lucifer, who was talking to the brunette's parents along with his father. The brunette's parents invited them to dinner, so without further ado, they went to the Hyoudou residence where, between laughter and conversation, the brunette's parents spent time, especially Goro, who due to his condition as a Declanuise, did not allow him to socialize much due to his enormous impulses to kill, caused by the common double personality of the Declanuise, so spending a pleasant moment with Ria's relatives made him feel truly happy and even mentally thanked his son for helping him overcome the typical problems of the Declanuise with their second personalities. Look, there's Asia-chan, how cute, said Issei's mother as they watched a video they recorded in Issei's class. Son, that was an amazing sculpture, every detail, definitely a work of art, Guru said with joy. Haha, I like your father, Issei, Ryuk said with a smile. Issei just smiled. Then it was Ria's father's turn, who put the video he recorded of her daughter. Well, Ria's had a twitch in her eye due to her brother and father's comments, which ended up making her angry, and she retreated to the second floor accompanied by Asia and Issei. After a few minutes, Urzichas went up to talk to Riaz about a certain matter. Riaz, I think it's time for you to release your other bishop, Urzichas said seriously. You're right, it must be time to do it, my team is strong enough to free him, said Riaz, leaving Issei confused, who decided to see for himself who that mysterious bishop was. After that they went to the occult club, while Riaz called the others to gather right on the ground floor, where a door with padlocks and security tapes was at the back. As they approached, Akeno made a magic circle, destroying the one placed on the door, while Riaz opened the door, so that an effeminate scream could be heard coming from an ancient coffin. What does this mean? The fearful voice coming from inside the coffin asked. They authorized you to leave, said Riaz calmly and affectionately as she opened the coffin, revealing a person with blonde hair, eyes between violet and pink, and an androgynous appearance. Issei, after seeing him and seeing his name, he only came to one conclusion. He's a cross-dressing man, he thought in a monotonous voice as Drake watched this with pity. Haha, he can fool whoever he wants with his clothes, but he will never fool the eyes of a Shinigami, said Ryuk, being heard by Riaz and Issei. Is it a girl? Asia asked with her typical innocence. It's a boy, Kiba said in a very flat voice. Really? And why women's clothes? Asia asked. Well, Gasper has a special taste for women's clothing, said Akeno. He looks very cute like that, Asia said smiling. He's Gasper Vladi, he's my other bishop, he used to be a hybrid between vampire and human, before he was reincarnated into a demon, Riaz said as she hugged him gently while he was very scared. Despite being a transvestite, he's still more masculine than that kind of Twilight. What is that? Shining like a disco ball? How ridiculous, said Ryuk, apparently he had the misfortune of watching some Twilight movie. Issei acknowledged internally as he looked at the transvestite boy in front of him. I'm Hyoudou Issei, the Sekiryuite before being a demon was a human Diclonius hybrid, it's a pleasure to meet you, Gasper-kun, said Issei with a smile, while Gasper saw him calmer. The Diclonius? Gasper said in doubt. We are considered monsters, are an abomination of nature, but don't worry, I take good care of my cowhide, said Issei with a smile, although a lump in the throat was made to everyone in particular, but Asia was the one who interrupted the awkward silence that was formed. That's not true, Issei. Nai-san is a very good person, he's not a monster, he gave me a home and a family. Sniff, he's not a monster, Asia began to cry while hugging him. Although he could have killed me, he ended up saving my life by allowing me to serve them, and he never treated me badly, said Kalwarner looking at him. That's right, Issei-sama never treated us badly and even gave us the opportunity to redeem ourselves, Middle said with a smile and with his hands on his waist. Is all that true? Gasper asked, curious and less afraid. That's right, Issei is without a doubt a very good person, and that's why I leave you in his care. He's like my left hand and Akeno my right hand. Riaz said confidently. I'll help you, Gasper-kun, here the past doesn't matter, only the future, and I want to know how good you are at video games, Gasper-kun, Issei said with a smile. Hi Issei-senpai, I will try hard, said the little vampire. Haha, he's going to make a mess of it in video games, Ryuk said with a smile. Chapter 10. Days have passed since Gasper Vladi's release, and he felt increasingly brave, especially because his senpai Hyoudou Issei took him with him to various places and supported him in whatever way to make him brave. He helped him choose new clothes that he had to admit suited him well. He remembered all these days that he has been training him, and for some reason that he doesn't understand, every time he had to use his power, he asked him to shout the word sa wordo pa las compas, because according to him associating his power with a word would help him a lot to control it, and as incredible as it may sound, it was so. At this moment, his senpai is in an important meeting, the summit between the biblical factions where a true peace treaty will be signed between them. For his part, he had stayed in the occult club with Kaneko because he still didn't feel very comfortable, let's say. Guo Academy Student Council Room. The leaders were sitting while talking about the Kakabiel incident. It should be said that Azazel revealed that Kakabiel acted on his own, and this was stated by the only person outside the supernatural, or rather the only human present, El himself. Kakabiel said something interesting about you, boy, he said you were at Declonia, said Azazel, and the others looked at him surprised and with some fear. I am, but don't worry, I'm in my right mind in case you're wondering, Issei said calmly, while the leaders didn't quite believe it, but they would trust him. I can attest to that, Issei has proven to be very helpful in Kira's case, and we have made progress thanks to his contributions. We almost have the two Kiras, El said, seriously shocking the rest, while Issei nodded. Well, now let's hear what those who are not directly linked to one of the factions, but whose power influences the course of the world have to say. The Welsh Dragon and the Vanishing Dragon, said Azazel, pausing to look at Volley. What do you think, Volley? For my part, I am only interested in fighting with powerful people, he said arrogantly. You can do it even if there is peace, and what about your Welsh Dragon, said Azazel. Make the peace sign and say it in English. Haha, I want to see how they act, Ryuk said with a smile. Issei without thinking made the peace sign and said peace bro with a monotonous face, and he swore he heard more than one stifle a laugh. Well, Azazel looked at him with a smile at the answer. Well then all that's left is to sign the peace, right? Said L, sitting in his own style while drinking tea. Suddenly an explosion was heard followed by a scream Issei Wardo that left several intrigued, but Issei knew what it was about. We are being attacked, that was Gasper using his sacred gear, said Issei, and in the background another scream Issei Wardo could be heard. The whole time froze except for Issei, Volley, Kiba, Zenobia, Irina and the leaders. But then the door of the room was opened by Gasper and Kaneko, who came to report what happened. Time ran again, and Volley decided to go out to fight the invading magicians, while the others were surprised to see Gasper, but after that a magic circle appeared in the place, revealing a woman with tanned skin and a lush body. He looked at her with an arrogant smile. Interesting meeting you have, let me give my point. After that he caused a rather loud explosion, but the leaders already knew what he would try, so they created a barrier together to protect everyone, a barrier made by the leaders. How pathetic, he said contemptuously. What does this mean, Kateria Leviathan, Surziches said seriously. Why are you doing this, Kateria-chan? Serafal said hurt. Don't you dare call me that, usurper, I'll kill you and get back what's rightfully mine, she replied very upset. Issei, it's not because I'm boring, but if you don't kill her, I will, said Ryuk, bored by the situation. I guess this is for all of us, Surziches said seriously. That's right, even though you were a good demon king, you are not necessary for this new world in which God and the demon kings died, so the demons, what are you laughing at, brat? Kateria said annoyed. You sound pathetic, Surziches sama. May I? Issei said calmly. There is no turning back, Kateria. Surziches asked. There isn't, Kateria said seriously. Too bad, Hyoudou Issei is all yours, said the mayor resignedly, so that the brown-haired boy could leave the barrier before everyone's astonished gaze. Welsh Dragon, I propose you his head detached from his body, and then Issei destroyed it with a dragon shoot. He wouldn't accept it, Issei said seriously as he turned to look at the others. Shall we finish off the rest? Riaz and the other demons along with Zenobia and Irina agreed, jumping to attack except for Gasper and Kaneko, who were tired from escaping from the occult club. The battle lasted little since most of the guards and the boys were finishing off the wizards, even Azazel helped a little, but he was attacked from behind by Volley. So you betrayed us, Worth, said Azazel. This side looked more fun, I replied dismissively. By Vice Governor Shemhaz, I recently discovered a group that is recruiting dangerous members of the factions. They call themselves the Cows Brigade, and their leader is none other than Ouroboros Dragon Office, said the fallen leader. The office, said Riaz, shocked. That's right, but while others join together to use their power or follow their plans of domination, I do it for something else, Volley said mockingly. I was afraid you were allied with Kateria to claim your place to Ella just like her. What do you mean, Azazel? Surziches said seriously. I am Volley Lucifer, I am the grandson of the son of the original Demon King, said the silver-haired man as he spread several pairs of wings. My God, Michael said in shock. Fate is cruel, don't you think, Hyoudou Issei? Volley said. It certainly is, Issei said seriously. I am a descendant of the original Demon King, and on my human side, I have the divine divide, making me the Hakuryuku. My existence is basically a miracle, he said proudly. If we count from the past, present and even the future, he will always be the most powerful Hakuryuku in history, Azazel said calmly. However, you are just a human reincarnated into a demon, and at most you are not very special because your condition is a Diclonius. That being said makes me special, it is a miracle for me. How about this, you will become the Avenger, and for that I will kill your parents, said Volley mockingly. How cruel, said Asia almost crying. Are you an idiot? For any Diclonius you are too little, my father would kill you before you could touch him, and to prove it to you, he wipes the floor with you. I'm going to humiliate you. Issei began to walk a few steps and then stopped, and I won't even use my boosted gear. Volley got upset and launched an attack at him, which as soon as it was launched was destroyed, and then threw him to the ground and hit him several times, destroying parts of his armor on the spot. Volley got up only to be launched further by several more impacts and then thrown into the air. It hasn't even been 20 seconds, and I've already hit you several times, and between them I could have killed you at least 1,000,000 times in different ways, Issei said seriously, and then looked at the divine divide gem on the ground. He pulled it towards him, and then summoned the boosted gear. Drag, will it be possible to do it, said Issei. Normally not, but your peculiar condition could allow it without any cost, said Drake before everyone's confused gaze. What are you trying to do? Volley said, more than curious about anything despite his injuries. Take your power obviously, said the brown-haired boy as if it were nothing. Impossible, you will die, Drake, and I are completely opposite entities so you will die just by trying, said Albion. Don't underestimate Albion, I said I can do it without any cost for a reason, said Drake. You actually said that my peculiar condition could allow it, but oh well, the brunette shrugged, and then it happened. The blue gem disappeared from his boosted gear on his left arm, and on his right arm, a white version with a blue gem of the boosted gear appeared. What did you call it? Divide gear? He asked more mockingly. Impossible, that should be impossible, said Albion. Maybe for you, but your prejudices don't apply to me, although I don't need it to overcome them. With it he discarded them and marked a circle on the ground with his foot. If you get me out of this circle you win. With it he crossed his arms and stayed there. I want. Volley, enraged at being underestimated, launched several attacks at him, but none of them hit him, since Issei deflected them with his vectors, as if it were nothing. Then Volley smiled mockingly. Try to avoid this. I am the one who will wake up. I am the white dragon who takes the principles of supremacy. I envy the infinite, I pursue the dream. I will become the white dragon of supremacy. And I will take you to the furthest limits of innocence. Jurgenot overdrive. Saying that chant he transformed into a huge white dragon about 10 meters tall, which opened its chest cannon and began to gather energy, but it did not last long as it was thrown to the ground with force, while multiple attacks hit him all over his body. Issei chewed him with his vectors until he lost his transformation. Drake spoke to me like that, and his special attack from him, you expected me to patiently let you gather that amount of energy, are you an idiot? Issei said with boredom, and then put on a mocking smile. Oh, it will put him in his place, haha. Well, even more, said Ryuk next to Riaz. Did you tell me the day we met where in the world I was? Well, I'm sure of one thing, and it's much higher than you. You told me to train and get stronger, right? Then explain why you are defeated even though you used your greatest card and you didn't move me an inch. Become more, to the point that I can't stop you with my vectors, and don't even think about coming to waste my time. Oh, powerful hacker Yuku, should I say the most powerful hacker Yuku in history, right? It doesn't matter, you're not that important. See you, miracle boy, Issei said, turning his back and walking towards the others who were stunned and in disbelief. The barrier was broken, and a boy in an ancient Chinese battlesuit came and quickly took Volley away. Chapter 11. The special agents in the investigation, Ray Pemmer and Commander Yugami, were in a room where there was a monitor and a microphone. Watari, have you gotten anything yet? L asked into the microphone. No, he hasn't said a single word, Watari replied. Please put it on the screen, said L. Are you sure? Watari asked with slight concern. Yes, do it quickly, L replied quickly. On the screen you could see a blonde girl with her eyes covered and immobilized by a straitjacket. She was sobbing lightly. Ryusaki, what does this mean? Commander Yugami said angrily. I detained her on suspicion of being the second Kira. I'm afraid this is necessary, said L. It's possible that Amain is guilty, there is enough evidence to judge her, but still, Commander Yugami said regretfully. Yes, there can be no mistake, we need his confession, we need to know how he kills, and if he knows Kira and who he really is, said L. Watari, take the necessary precautions, but do what you have to do, okay? Make him talk. Very well, Watari replied. Mr. Yugami, Light is our prime suspect, so we must bring him in for questioning, so be prepared as well, L said. And so 3 days passed in which she did not say a word until Ryusaki Amain is speaking was heard on the monitor broadcast, and everyone ran to see what was happening. She was sobbing until she said, I can't take it anymore, kill me. Everyone was shocked by what she said. Kill me, please kill me, she said, already defeated. I don't know, it seems like this was too much for a young woman of her age, said one of the investigative team. You're right, it was too much, answered Mitsuda from the research team. There's a mess here, since it's Mitsuda from Death Note, don't confuse it with Mitsuda from DXD. L used the microphone and spoke. It must be said that his voice was distorted. Miss Amain, can you hear me? I hear you, please just kill me, he replied, sobbing. You admit that you are the second Kira, is that the reason you want to die? L said. No, I don't know anything about the second Kira, I can't take it anymore, I'd rather die, hurry up and kill me, if you wanted you could kill me now, right? Said the blonde, screaming the last thing, desperate and frustrated. Yes, kill me, she said suddenly to nothing. Yes, that's it. Then she started to cry. I can't take it anymore, kill me. Then she paused. You can't, don't do it, just kill me. She paused again, as if she was talking to someone else. Fine, if you're not going to kill me, she threatened suddenly, and L was quick to react. Watari, stop her and do an apostrophe T, let her bite her tongue, said L, and Watari did it in the transmission, feinting to avoid her biting her tongue. Is her behavior why Kira controls her actions before dying? Elle wondered, however Elle noticed how a lock of Miss Amain's hair rose for a second. So 2 more days passed, and finally the blonde started talking again. "Mr. Stalker, hello sir, hello, where are you now?" he began to shout, getting Elle's attention from her. "Don't you think that's enough?" Issei, who was there, said. "Did he say stalker? What the hell is going on there?" The brown-haired boy said, but in his mind a smile formed. "Mr. Stalker, this is illegal, you must stop. Let's go, please," the desperate blonde pleaded. "Something's not right, he acts like he doesn't know anything," Issei said suspiciously while Elle acknowledged. "Well, what do you think of this? At least take the blindfold off my eyes. I'd like to see what you look like." "Mitsuda call Mogi," Elle asked, and he did so, handing him his cell phone. "Mr. Mogi, when you arrested Miss Amain, did you let her know that she was a suspect?" Elle asked, receiving an affirmation. "And if I give him an autograph and a greeting, you could give him a kiss on the cheek, come on, I won't run away, I promise," Amain said on the monitor broadcast. "Why are you talking like that? This doesn't make sense," Issei said, looking at the transmission. "It's like I've forgotten everything about Kira." He narrowed his eyes, and Elle looked at him and nodded with a serious look. Elle touches the microphone button and says, "Miss Amain." "What's wrong, Mr. Stalker? Are you planning to free me?" Amain said with slight fear. "Before you fainted you were barely talking, you even asked me to kill you, and now you don't know what happened," Elle said seriously. "I don't understand, you were the one who kidnapped me and brought me here, remember?" "Wait, I see. It's your fantasy of interrogating Miss Amain, right?" she said with confusion and then assumed the following. That confused everyone present except Issei, although he faked his reaction very well. "Do you know why you're being held? You must have some idea," Elle said. "What is he talking about?" "Because I'm a celebrity obviously, but he's the first stalker to go this far and start scaring me," she said with fear that annoyed Mitsuda, who took the microphone and spoke. "Hey Amain, nobody believes you, so stop it," he shouted angrily. "It scares me. What's going on? I can't take it anymore. Please let me go, you have to let me go," she screamed with fear and desperation that baffled Mitsuda. "I need to go to the bathroom again, okay?" she said in a lower voice. "You just went to the bathroom 4 minutes ago, I'm afraid you'll have to wait," Elle said. "Please, this is the only time you untie me and you'll be able to watch. Isn't that what you want? Isn't it? Pervert," she said, annoyed. "Am I a pervert?" Elle said in confusion as a drop of sweat ran down the back of Issei's neck. "You? I doubt it," Issei said somewhat, although seriously he wanted to laugh. "Amain, let's get back to the conversation we had before you fainted. First, do you know who Light Yagami is? And if so, why did you look for him?" Elle said, and Amain was very surprised. "Hey, what are you talking about? How could I not look for my own boyfriend? Why is he acting like this?" Mitsuda wondered. "I have no idea, but this is too strange," said Issei. Elle's phone suddenly rang and he picked it up, saying, "Just in time, Light." This caught the attention of those present. "Please turn off the audio and video," said Elle, receiving an affirmative from Watari, doing what was lost. Elle answered the phone, "Yes. Yes, I understand, we will see you in room K8201." After that he hung up the phone. "It means my son will come," Commander Yagami said, and received a nod from Issei. After a while, Light arrived at the place and spoke. "Ryusaki, as I told you on the phone, maybe I'm Kira," he said regretfully, and that shocked his father. "No, Light, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that? Why?" Commander Yagami said desperately. "Listen Dad, if Ryusaki is L then he is the best detective in the world and he seems to be sure that I am Kira. You know that L has never been wrong," he continued with light regret. "What? What are you saying, Light? Enough already," Commander Yagami said desperately. "What about John Spencer? He was investigating me before he died and I was in Aoyama on May 22nd. I'm also the only person in Kanto that Miss Amain, the supposed second Kira, looked for. Everything indicates that it's me. If I were in L's place, I would come to the same conclusion. Maybe I'm Kira subconsciously, and if that's the case, I could be Kira and not know it," he said, looking at his hands in shock. "No, Light," said his father of him, not wanting to believe it. "I'm not sure of anything anymore. I've never killed anyone, but subconsciously I don't know what I'm capable of. My other self could kill while I sleep," he said with his head down. "That's impossible," said L. "Is that impossible? What do you mean?" Light said, confused. "I never mentioned this to you, but we put surveillance cameras in your room for 5 days," L said. Well, Light was impressed. "Yes, and every night you slept normally. The names of the criminals they published continued to die without you having any way of knowing about them, but that didn't prove your innocence. It only proved that if you were Kira, no surveillance would prove that you wouldn't reveal that fact," L said. "Wouldn't that reveal that fact?" He said seriously. "I don't know, it could be true. I must admit that sometimes I think that some criminal should die. If I can think like Kira, how can I be sure that I'm really not him?" he said again with regret. Mitsuda interrupted him. Wait, Light, I think the same. I also think that there are people who would be better off dead, but that doesn't mean we're going to go out and kill them, right? Besides, criminals died without you knowing about them, the security cameras proved it, said Mitsuda, defending Light. Well, no, since there were only a few investigators, we watched him while he was at home. The truth is that we didn't watch him every hour of the day. He could have found a way to kill those criminals when he was at home, Mogi said seriously. Very good deduction, but you know, Issei never trusted Light and decided to ask me for help to investigate it on our own, said a voice in the room. It was a woman who came out of the shadows of the room with her crimson hair and serious look. Everyone was on alert when they saw her since no one knew she was there. At her side was Ray Pemmer's partner, who recognized her immediately. Instantly, Light was lifted into the air by Issei's vectors and feigned so that he would not move at the same time that Issei saw the Shinigami who had Light. Riaz walked to stand in front of Elle and placed her cell phone on the coffee table while using a spell to create a hologram of the image on the screen in which Miss Amain and Light Yagami were. We have evidence to support what I say, with it she played. In the video, Light was sitting on his bed and in a chair in front of him, and he spoke. Well, you managed to find me, but you were careless, and if the police caught you, they would know everything about Kira, Light said seriously. Don't worry, the police haven't caught me, and if I do what you tell me now they will never do it. We are safe, besides who will see the name L? If you want, I can be your eyes. I could, she said the last thing, lowering her head. Yes. Could you? Light asked seriously. Could I be your girlfriend? She said a little shyly. No. Girlfriend, Light said with doubt. Yes, he said, nodding his head, affirming Light's doubt. Impossible. The day we were in Aoyama there were 3 times the usual number of security cameras. Anyone who was in Aoyama on May 22nd is in those videos, that includes me. If they see us together it would raise suspicions. In fact, being together now is a problem, I hope you understand. But look how I look the day we went to Aoyama, he said, showing a photograph with a different appearance, and apart from this it was clearly seen in the image. What about your fingerprints? All the tapes you sent to the station all have the same fingerprints, said Light. Yes, but they're not my fingerprints. It's not like I didn't think of these things first. Until recently, I was living in the Kansai region and a friend of mine was into the occult. I suggested that we distribute a video of a ghost to several television stations as a joke, and she agreed to help me. She took care of the copies so that my fingerprints wouldn't be on the tapes. She gave them to me and I nested Kira's graphic and recorded the message. With a voice effect, said the girl. And this friend with whom you did it, where is she now? Light asked seriously. Why are you doing this to me? If you want me to kill her, tell me, and I will kill her. After that he got up from the chair with tears in his eyes. Why are you so suspicious of me? I told you that I don't care, that you just use me, believe me, he said. He is in tears until he fell to the ground on his knees. A year ago my parents died in a robbery. I was with them at home when it happened in front of me. I wanted that man to pay for what he did, but the trial took a long time. People began to think that maybe he was innocent, and then it happened. Kira punished him for what he did to my parents. That's why Kira means everything to me. I just wanted the opportunity to meet you someday to thank you for what you did. She was crying with her head down until Light hugged her. I understand, I circa an apostrophe T be your boyfriend of her, but I can act like one. What you did to find me, to help me, said Light. Thank you very much. I will try to make you fall in love with me, I promise, she said while Light hugged her with a sinister smile. End of video. That is irrefutable proof that you, Light Yagami, are Kira, Riaz said as she pointed at him. On the other hand, everyone was absorbed by the hologram. How do you know that's not an addition, and also what kind of thing did you do there? That seems Commander Yagami was interrupted by Issei. Magic. That's right, since she and I are demons, with it they spread their demon wings. It's a lie, all those things are fantasies, said Light's father, while the others were shocked. They are real. I myself met their leaders and the angels and fallen angels. I was invited to the peace meeting they held after an incident. Ray Pemmer and Watari accompanied me, so they can give it was about that. Apart from that I have evidence, and that was how I ruled out Hyoudou Issei from being Kira. Now that I have the evidence, there is no doubt that you, Light Yagami, are Kira. Arrest him. After that Light was arrested while Issei escorted them. As Light was taken to his temporary cell, he smiled macabrely and said out loud. He gave up, you heard me, he gave up his property, said Light, so that Ryak appeared behind him. I'm glad you do it, imbecile, because Issei is the real Kira, and now we have 4 more death notes. Asamis who died trying to prevent a delinquent hypnotized by Riaz from stealing your death note, and Rem's death note who tried to kill Issei 2 days ago. Your plan failed, Light Yagami, and you will pay for a crime you will never remember. Haha. That said, Light lost his memories of the death note. As Issei watched this with a smile off camera. Now I just have to get rid of L, and I will have won, thought the brown-haired boy. That's right, mate, this victory is yours, lol, laughed Drake from the boosted gear. In this world, only I can choose who has a death note, but above all, only I can be Kira. Chapter 12. After the trial of Light Yagami and Misa Amane, they were declared guilty, but after negotiating it was achieved that they served a life sentence, since a death sentence would be, according to the judges, a relief for the two convicted. Issei is currently heading to the underworld on a train with Riaz and the other members of the occult club. Alwerner and Middle stayed at the Hyoudou residence to help Issei's parents who were already fond of the fallen pair and vice versa. Without a doubt, Stockholm Syndrome also affected supernatural beings. Issei laughed inside because his plan was perfect, and with Ria's help, it was even better because he ended up hypnotizing El, Watari, Ray Pemmer and his wife, so that they would leave all this in the hands of the supernatural world. He remembered when he and Riaz watched over Light when Miss Amane was detained. Well, she planned to rescue her in a plan that would take time and could be dangerous for them because the existence of the death note would be discovered. Riaz would take care of Light Yagami's death note and his Shinigami, thanks to the information they obtained when Misa told Light how to kill his Shinigami, and knowing that Light's Shinigami appreciated him, it didn't take long to finish him off and give the death note to Ryuk so that he would now be the owner of it. While Issei confronted Ram and snatched the death note from her while slowly writing Miss Amane's name only for her to write hers and thus die, he would never forget that he felt a pang in his chest, but he stopped, and according to Drake his other half was officially dead. Once he reached the upper class he would reincarnate his parents, and when he found Lucy he would undoubtedly I would do the same for her. For his part, Ryuk had been laughing for a few days. Issei was undoubtedly too interesting because he won the war in a single move without having to kill anyone. He truly was a genius, and it seemed that he would not be bored spending the next millennia next to the brown-haired boy, watching how he does each interesting thing, especially after knowing that interesting battles would possibly come from. After a long journey they finally arrived at the Gremory territory where they were greeted by a huge purple dragon which was called Tannen. He explained to Issei that despite his vectors, he had to become physically stronger because although his vectors protected him from projectiles and physical attacks, fire could be a problem for him because this, like water attacks, would filter between the spaces of his vectors, so it would not be a bad idea to train. He also explained that his vectors could not prevent the heat from reaching him, so a sufficiently intense fire attack could knock him down. After meeting the dragon, who turned out to be one of the Dragon Kings, more specifically the former Dragon King Tannen Meteor Blaze Dragon, everyone went to Gremory Castle, where they were greeted by the servants of the house and a little Redeed who turned out to be Ria's nephew. At dinner, he formally met Ria's parents, and they hinted that they might have a relationship, but both of them automatically and without interest responded that it was impossible on both sides, which disappointed Ria's parents. The next day everyone went to different places where they would train at the request of Azazel, who wanted the sacred gear users to dominate them. Hiba would train with his former teacher Ella, while Lakeno would train with her father Ella, Kaneko would train on her own Ella, and Asia would go with a fallen angel who specialized in healing and support magic. Issei and Gasper would train with Tannen. A curious fact is that Gasper began to growl while fighting, and it seemed like it was something like Rai or something like that, and when Issei asked him he said that he felt more comfortable doing that since he felt the fear go away. Tannen trained Issei and Gasper, forcing Issei to survive without his vectors and only do so with his sacred gear while fighting in what seemed like a fight to the death. Gasper developed more courage since in the heat of battle he would launch himself into attacks with darkness or attacking with huge rocks, trying to crush Tannen. He commented that it was useless, but Gasper only commented that with a steamroller it would look epic, and it was when Issei noticed a small pocket manga of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so he remained silent since this same one had made him say the word when he would use his power, and apparently now they had a half-rag god Brando in the Gremory entourage. One day he was called by Azazel because Kaneko fell unconscious due to overexertion in her training, and he went to see the little white-haired loli, seeing that she had a pair of cat ears and a tail. In a certain way she reminded Lucy, since her Diclonius horns looked exactly like a pair of cat ears. He told Kaneko not to be afraid of his powers because he was technically a monster and had mastered his power. He was slapped by the white-haired girl, well she told him that he was not a monster and promised to improve to gain confidence in his own power just like Akeno who told him that she was a hybrid of a fallen angel and a human and then a hybrid between a fallen and a demon. Issei only told her that she should accept herself because in the Gremory group the past didn't matter, only the future, which moved the fallen, and she tried to kiss the brunette, but he stopped her and told her that his heart was with Lucy and he would never change his mind. Akeno became sad, but Issei told her that she would eventually find a good man. After returning this term satisfactorily his training improved his use of his balance breaker, since Tannen told him that it was a waste to have such tremendous power and not use it by using his vectors. Issei was now more robust and without fat on his face, giving him an image of a mature man. Instead of Gasper, he was a mini-god, since he dressed like the fictional character. Asper discovered that in his balance breaker, he could create really terrifying beings with his darkness, and Azazel told him that it was similar to what a Longinus called Annihilation Maker could do. Asper unfortunately for everyone wanted to create a being of darkness to help him and call it stand, but Issei told him that having powers like Dio Brando does not make him Dio Brando, and told him to look for a style a little of his own. The blonde ignored him while calling him Jotaro and challenged him to a fight making a strange pose. Issei beat him up for that. After that they were invited to an event where the young devils would meet and present themselves to the Devil Society. They were escorted by Tannen, who gladly agreed to carry them on his back. Issei looked at the road in front of him while having a sad look. "I found you, Lucy, it doesn't matter what, I'm going to find you," the brown-haired boy thought seriously and then looked at the others who were looking at him with intrigue. "Is something wrong, Issei?" Riaz asked with genuine concern. "I just remembered something, my dream to be exact," he said looking at the sky, watching how Ryuk looked at him with a strange smile. "Don't worry, Issei, when we find her there will be a massacre and I'll be there to see it," Ryuk said and then looked ahead while flying. Issei smiled, he knew that Ryuk didn't know what to do to cheer him up, but he was there to support him. Riaz heard the Ryuk say that and smiled a little. "Issei, I promise I will find her, we will definitely find her," Riaz said with a smile. The others were curious, not knowing what they were talking about until Issei looked at them. "When I was a child, Irina and I played with an orphan girl named Lucy. She was a Diclonius and apparently had difficulties controlling herself, although with Irina and me, she didn't have that problem. She had no friends other than the two of us, and one day when we were playing Irina and I went to buy a drink for each of us, and when we came back Issei put on an angry expression and clenched his fists tightly. They took her away and we couldn't do anything. We were just children and my parents rescued me since they were afraid that they would take me since they knew that Lucy was a Diclonius, but they didn't seem to know that I was one too." He lowered his head sadly and then looked up with eyes that really scared them since they shone emerald and were slanted like those of a dragon, "but that doesn't matter now because I will rescue her and make them pay for that," he said and then regained a serene countenance. Riaz looked at him and then said, "We will make them pay for that, Issei. We are a team, a family, the Gremory family," she said extending her fist towards him. "I agree, Issei-kun, count on me for this," Kiba said smiling. I'm not leaving my cowhide alone in this," said Akeno with a hand on her cheek and a smile. "I want to meet her, Issei Nai-san, I will help you," Asia said with a determined smile. "We'll get it back, Issei-senpai," Kaneko said, his fist hitting her palm. "Do not worry, senpai, they will pay for that and I am willing to help you," said Gasper, while his eyes glowed red and a light ray could be heard while he smiled wildly. "Thank you all, well let's go one step at a time," said Issei as he looked at them with a grateful smile. Once they arrived at the event they saw a muscular black-haired man approaching them. "Hello Riaz, I see you have 2 new members in your entourage," said the young man. Riaz and the black-haired boy talked happily while Issei just looked at the guy. He was strong and he really felt like he was a beast of pure strength. Suddenly the door was destroyed and an argument between a couple of demons could be seen. Issei didn't even pay attention as he felt a certain evil vibe coming from a black-haired demon sitting at some seats drinking tea. He looked at Asia until he noticed how for a second his gaze acquired a touch of evil and wished. Issei took Asia and put her next to him without stopping to look at the subject who was upset by that act, but when he looked at the table where he was drinking tea, he saw a marked hand very close to him. For some reason he felt a chill run down his spine. Then Issei saw Sareog hit the guy who was arguing with the girl and how his servants tried to defend their master, although Sareog stressed that their duty is to serve their master and they went to help him. Sona Sitri arrived where everyone was and they started talking while Saji was talking to Issei about the possible raiding games that would make them participate. Issei felt that something really important would happen soon. Chapter 13. After a while and the commotion of Sareog's little fight with the guy that Issei didn't even bother to remember, all the young devils were brought in front of the Mayu and the elder devils. The Mayu Lucifer gave a speech about the importance of the young devils for the future and then asked about each one's dreams. "I Sareog Bale will be a Mayu," declared Sareog, while several gasped but approved of said dream. "I, Riaz Gremory, will be the supreme empress of the raiding games and I will put my name on top. Maybe I will aspire to be a Mayu too," said Riaz with a superior look but an attitude that showed that she was not joking and that she had the means to do it. Having the Sekiryuite who defeated a cadre level fallen angel and the current Hikryuko was the clearest example of all. "I Zephyr Glacial Labolas wish to have as many women as I come across including Leviathan Sama," said the guy that Sareog beat up. He undoubtedly had a lot of self-esteem or was really stupid, maybe the latter. That's what Issei thought, who noticed a tick in the Mao's eye, who didn't like what the boy with the appearance of a petty criminal said. "Sakvara Gares, my wish is to improve the current technology of the underworld," said the blonde girl with red eyes. I am Citri and I want to build a school of rating games and revolutionize rating games, said the black-haired girl with glasses with a determined stance. Isn't there rating games school already? An old man said. This would be for all kinds of demons and even other races, he said without any problem. After a bit of silence, laughter broke out among the elders as things like how good it is to be young and the occasional taunt were heard, but what struck everyone as strange was the laughter of a reincarnated demon in particular, who upon noticing the glances on him stopped laughing but showed a smile to Sona Citri. I see, I must say that it is too ambitious, that left the elders in doubt, who curiously asked her to explain. It is simple in fact, if more races participate the masses of even other races would come to the events which translates into greater profits, I suppose there would be leagues, right? Sona Citri Sama, he said so that all eyes would focus on her, and her glasses had a certain shine, while an arrogant smile was shown on her face. I see that I underestimated you, Hyoudou-kun. You are right, because if there are divisions for the lower, middle and upper classes, there will be more profits and profits for investors. My school meetings will give the opportunity for those who study to have better training, and that will give greater variety. Greater variety is greater audience, and greater audience are greater profits and bets, along with greater prestige for the winners and my school, which in turn will give me more economic and political power, he said, with an arrogant smile and a shine in his glasses that prevented him from seeing his eyes, but still gave greater impact to his words. I see, and I suppose that those who qualify as the best in the lower class will have a greater opportunity to rise to the middle class, and so on until they reach the upper class. Am I wrong? Said the brown-haired boy. Not at all, Hyoudou-kun. I'm not surprised that you discovered it easily. After all, you worked with L and you captured Kira, he said, so that Issei smiled in the same way and with malice. You are undoubtedly a genius among geniuses, Sona Citri. You have my support and that of the entire Grimoire entourage, he said, while his eyes shone with a strange red tone. That's right, Sona, you can count on us for that, said Riaz with the same arrogant smile. I wouldn't miss this opportunity for anything in the world. Who knows, maybe you'll give us powerful rivals along the way. It's a win-win, said Riaz as her aura manifested along with Sona's and Issei's as they began to laugh evilly. Haha, the next few years will definitely be interesting, won't they? Issei Raik said with a smile while Issei looked at him out of the corner of his eye with a smile. Various compliments now filled the room for the young Citri, who smiled happily, seeing that the brown-haired boy's plan had gone perfectly. Issei glanced sideways at the Citri just as I planned, he thought as he smiled to see the Mao Leviathan, who thanked him from a distance, so he deduced my plan. He knows Citri is easy to fool, not even the outgoing Mao Leviathan. After that, a gala ball was held for the young demons, so the brown-haired boy was forced to dance with some demons, including his adopted sister Asia Hyoudou. Then he noticed how Kaneko suddenly left the place, so he decided to follow her with Riaz, who saw both servants leave, so after reaching Issei, they silently followed the little white-haired girl. I see that you barely noticed me and came to see me. Do you miss me that much, Shirin? Said a black-haired Nekomata wearing a black kimono as her eyes fell on the little white-haired girl who stuck out her Nekomata ears and her tail. What are you doing here, Nisam Kuroka? The white-haired girl stopped as she looked at her with annoyance. Hey Kuroka, it's okay to ignore those two hiding over there, said Sun Wukong's descendant as Risa and Issei came out from behind the bushes and didn't look happy at all. Shirin, if you come with me I will let them live, he said while raising a barrier. Don't underestimate them, Kuroka, especially him, he said in mono, pointing at Issei. He defeated Vali even with his juggernaut drive and without using his sacred gear, he said, somewhat uncomfortable by Issei's arrogant smile. How's Miracle Boy? Have you recovered yet? He said, but saw Kuroka tilt her head to the side in doubt. That fool of your leader told me that his existence is a miracle in itself to brag about, and I defeated him without moving a finger, said the brown-haired boy as he looked at Biku, who agreed with some fear. He's not joking, even Vali accessed the Juggernaut drive and still couldn't defeat him. Somehow he damaged him without using magic or anything I've seen before, said the monkey with a drop of sweat running down his cheek. We retreat, Kuroka, we have no chance, he said seriously. Something that surprised him until he noticed something touching his shoulder, but there was nothing there, so he saw the brown-haired man who smiled evilly. As you are the biological sister of my little sister Kaneko, I will let you go alive, but the next time you come for her you will be attacked by a coffin of vectors, he said, and for the consternation of the same he saw the pair of girls turn pale, while Kaneko grabbed him by the pants. Issei-senpai, please don't kill my sister like that, said the little Nekomata with tears in her eyes. You left me alone, but she doesn't deserve that, she said with tears running down her cheeks. I would never do anything to hurt you, Kaneko-chan, he said with a smile. Then behind Kuroka and Biku a fissure opened and from it came a blonde man with glasses with a sword that made Issei feel chills. Kuroka, Biku, I've come for both of you, he said as he walked over to see those present. I'm sorry for not introducing myself first. I'm Arthur Pendragon. It's a pleasure to meet you, especially you, Sekiryute Hyoudou Issei. I'd like to duel you and your fellow swordsmen in the future, if possible, also the wielder of Durandal and the wielder of Excalibur Mimic, he said with a bow. I will pass the message on to them, and I have no problem with it, he said as Ascalon made his appearance. I am nothing more than a novice swordsman, but I will gladly face you, he said with a calm smile. I appreciate it, we retreat with it. He brandished his sword and cut the same space. This is the sacred sword Kalburn, also known as Caliburn. I look forward to a future fight with it. They left the place. Riaz noticed the chestnut's nervous expression because of what he was saying. That sword cut through my vectors, said the brown-haired man with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck. He didn't even put up any resistance. He was really pale and trembling slightly. He had undoubtedly come across a weapon that could kill him. Chapter 14. Hyoudou Issei was preparing for the raiding game against Sona Citri, as it would be in a replica of the Kuo City shopping center. He and Riaz knew how good Sona was when it came to strategy, but they weren't stupid. They knew exactly how to move their pieces to take victory. The rules for this raiding game were that they could not cause any damage or destruction to the property, or they would lose points for it. Both Issei and Gasper were forbidden from using their sacred gear. It was certain that the elders wanted to see how they would perform without them. It would not be a problem for the brown-haired boy or the blonde vampire who trained with him with Tannen for a month, in which he was brutal with the pair. Currently Gasper, in terms of physical strength, surpassed the brown-haired boy, but in raw power the brown-haired boy won, and without counting his vectors. The other rules were the typical ones of a normal raiding game. Sona most likely expects us to go down to the parking lot. A direct attack from the entire group is the last thing she would expect from us. She knows how good I am in terms of strategy and analyzing the situation, so she will set me as a target. She will surely send Saji along with Raruko to attack me. Sona must think that it will be just me and Kaneko-chan, but they do not know about all my progress in training or how I handle myself in the art of the sword. Thanks for your help in that, Kiba, said the brown-haired boy. Well, Kiba nodded at the last with a smile. For Gasper, they must have a simple trap with garlic. I'm sure they don't expect to see that, he said while looking at Gasper with a garlic necklace, smiling somewhat arrogantly, although his less effeminate face took away merit from that smile. She does not expect Asia to have trained to reverse the effects of her twilight healing, so we have a way to neutralize the magic of her bishop. They also do not expect Akeno to use light magic. I'm sorry to force you to use it, Akeno will so much that you hate that, but remember that power is yours, not anyone else's. Kaneko advanced much more by training her Senjutsu, so her attacks and way of detecting enemies gives us an advantage to ambush Sona's pieces. Riaz showed a map of the place. We will go down the stairs to the fountain, it is predictable, and that is why it is where he least expects an attack from us, much less one from all of us together, said Riaz. Well, the others agreed. Gasper, you will take care of Raruko and Saji. According to what I found out, they found a way for Saji's sacred gear lines to draw blood, so if you take Raruko's blood while Saji has you with one of them you will be fine. The blonde nodded while smiling and doing his now common rei. In a low tone, Hyoudou, you will face Tsubaki. You are aware of her feelings for you as well as you have accepted that you have them for her, but that does not stop you from winning. Kiba nodded with a slight blush. Issei, you will face Tsubasa already, Tomo, since I want to see your recent physical skills such as sword techniques. Use Ascalon and do not hesitate to use its sacred attribute. Even if it is not much, it will generate enough damage. Even if Tsubasa is a tower, the brown-haired boy agreed as he looked at Riaz. Asia, you will use your ability against Momo Hanakai. I know you don't like to cause harm to anyone, but at least weaken her long enough for Kaneko to take care of her. The former nun agreed with a complicated look. She didn't like to hurt Akeno. You take care of Ryakusaka. I will take care of Sona personally, she said, and then heard the indication that the raiding game had started. Gasper walked ahead of everyone, while Risa and Akeno maintained an invisibility barrier in front of the others when they saw Saji arrive with Raruko. So they sat the bishop alone, just like Sona-sama said they would do. The girl said as Saji stared at the blonde with his garlic necklace. I don't know, he's supposed to hate garlic, she asked as she took out the garlic she had in the bag she had in one hand. What kind of pathetic vampire would I be if I feared something as insignificant as a garlic clove? He said playfully. It seems that little Gasper has just gained some guts. Let's see if it's true, said Saji approaching slowly with his sacred gear in hand. So the student council dog has come along with the Chibi Pawn. They won't last long in the game, Gasper said with slight contempt and in a playful way which provoked the blonde Citri. You, how dare you? Saji launched, quite annoyed, while Gasper evaded him with ease. You're short-tempered, huh? Just push him a little and you're already provoked. You're pathetic, Citri, said Gasper, hitting him in the chest and throwing him as far away as possible. I don't need my sacred gear to beat you or the Chibi, he said, dodging a blow from an enraged Raruko. What's wrong, Chibi? Are you upset? You're also a Chibi, you damn effeminate vampire, she shouted angrily as Saji connected a line to the blonde damper's chest. I'll show you who the sissy one is. With that he appeared behind her and bit her neck lightly, while licking the blood coming out of the small wound. It tastes like a virgin. Delicious. He had her in a total Nelson as she fought uselessly. If you don't stop sucking my blood, I'll drink hers. Citri pawn, he said playfully, while licking his lips. Better not do it. I want to taste her blood until it is expelled. With it he sank his fangs into her, who let out a moan and stopped struggling to begin to shine before the helpless gaze of Saji, who saw how Gasper easily removed the line while regenerating. Who's sissy now? He said somewhat seductively. The gold peon came back from the shop. Damn you dare, Saji shouted as he lost control of his emotions, only to be brutally punched in the stomach by the same Gasper repeatedly. Useless, 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 shouted Gasper for each hit until the blonde Citri was taken out of the game. The gold peon came back from the shop. Vampires get stronger with blood, and that doesn't change with the dampires. He said to look behind him and join the rest inside the barrier, who looked at him in a complicated way. He just shrugged his shoulders. The next to leave the barrier were Kiba and Issei, who had Ascalon in his hand. Then they were Asia and Kaneko, leaving only Gasper, Akeno and Riaz in the barrier. It didn't take long for them to reach the fountain on the first floor, where it was empty until Issei spoke loudly, calling out to Sona Citri. Get out of where you are. Members of the Citri clan. After a moment Tsubaki, Tsubasa, Tomo and Hanakai arrived. Tsubaki launched herself towards Issei but was intercepted by Kiba. Give me this piece, Tsubaki-san, he said, blushing a bit, and then pushed her a little, taking her to another place. Tomo jumped with sword in hand towards Issei, who didn't even move from the spot, repelling it with his sword to dodge a kick from Tsubasa, which he intervened from the front. While she noticed that neither Asia nor Kaneko entered the fight, she wanted to attack, but Issei hit her in the back with a kick to propel himself and attack Tomo, who barely managed to block the attack. Ladies, grant me this fight, both of you. I want to fight without my sacred gear, said the brown-haired boy smiling, and then dodged a blow from Tsubasa, who went through the wall where Issei was leaning. 10 points less to the Citri clan for damages. Tomo and Tsubasa clicked their tongues and then launched themselves at the brunette, who blocked the double attack to hit the back of the neck with the Ascalon knob, knocking Tomo unconscious and then launching a cut at Tsubasa, who was injured but could move, since Issei noticed that the Ascalon aura that she used to cut Tsubasa changed from sacred to demonic for an instant. Knight of Sona Citri retires. Watching Momo arrive at the place but was attacked by Asia with arrows of light from the twilight, healing with damage attribute, and when she noticed it, she dodged only to be received by a punch from Kaneko, with Senjutsu taking her out of the game. Bishop of Sona Citri retires. Issei then launched himself towards Tsubasa, who was surrounded by the damaging aura of twilight healing and cut by Issei, with Ascalon's sacred aura being expelled. Tower of Sona Citri retires. Suddenly I noticed how Kiba and Tsubaki had injuries, and clearly they would be expelled from the game, although Tsubaki looked a little energetic. Tsubaki-san, Kiba called the queen of the Citri clan. Tell me, Kiba-kun, he asked with doubt before seeing the determined look of the Gremory knight. I like you, he said, and was then kicked out of the game due to his battle wounds. Knight of Riaz Gremory retires. Tsubaki blushed furiously as she was taken out of the game. Queen of Sona Citri retires. After the announcement, Riaz removed the barrier so that everyone could advance together to Sona's base, where she was waiting for them, along with Ria, who looked anxious. It was a good game, Sona, Riaz said calmly. Same here, Riaz, they crushed my strategy by acting in a way I really didn't expect, she said with a resigned smile. This is a 1 versus 1, Sona, let's finally see who of the two is the strongest, said Riaz, challenging her, while Akeno gestured to Ria to fight against her. Hyoudou Issei, surrender, he said, and was instantly expelled. Gremory Esuri pawn retreats. Hyoudou Asia, surrender, said the blonde with a smile. Bishop of Riaz Gremory withdraws. Vladi Gasper, I'm retiring from combat, said the Comdamper, being taken out of the game. Bishop of Riaz Gremory withdraws. Taujo Kaneko, surrender, said the Nekomata calmly. Tower of Riaz Gremory retreats. Then there was an explosion. Sona Citri's bishop retreats, Riaz Gremory is down 10 points from damage, it was announced. See you at the club, Riaz Butchu, Himejima Akeno is leaving, said the brunette. Queen of Riaz Gremory retires. What does this mean, Riaz? Sona asked. As I said, 1 versus 1, Sona, said the Gremory. After a brief battle, Riaz managed to win. 5 days later. Human World Hyoudou Residential. The members of the Gremory clan were gathered watching TV when Irina entered, agitated and with tearful eyes, but a happy smile as she looked directly at Issei to say something that would change the brown-haired boy's life forever. Issei-kun, I found her. Chapter 15. Human World Hyoudou Residence. The members of the Gremory clan were gathered watching TV when Irina entered, agitated and with tearful eyes, but a happy smile as she looked directly at Issei to say something that would change the brown-haired boy's life forever. Issei-kun, I found her, said the brown-haired girl with pigtails. Issei immediately stood up to stand in front of her. "We're Irina," said Issei, who received a small sheet of paper with some coordinates. He quickly deduced that it was relatively close to the beach, about 20 kilometers from Kuo. "Irina is waiting in the abandoned warehouse where I exterminated a renegade demon before. Riaz will tell you where it is," he said, to lower a magic circle and end up dressed in a metallic mask with red touches. A red trench coat and leather pants with several chains, while his hair changed to blonde by the same spell. "Why not bring her directly here?" Issei Nais and Asia asked with doubt. "Why is she still dangerous? We Declonius have a double personality that can be considered evil in every sense of the word. Mine was sealed by Drake like my father's, but hers was not, and it is dangerous for me to bring her here without sealing her second personality first. I hope you understand," Issei said seriously, and then looked at Irina. "Wait for me there. She didn't know you were a woman and she may not recognize you. You know how jealous she could be," Issei said seriously, and then left in a magic circle. "This is the address, Irina. Be careful, there may be some renegade demon in the area," said Riaz, only to see how Irina's pair of angelic wings came out. "It won't be a problem," she said to look at her with a smile. "Thank you." After that she left. "I would go see the massacre that Issei is going to do, but those mangas in Issei's room are not going to read themselves," hehe said Ryak, while a drop of sweat fell down the back of Ria's neck at what the Shinigami said. 20 kilometers from Kuo City secret base inner floors. The 17-year-old girl with some kind of strange metal helmet with her arms and legs tied in a special suit hanging on a metal pillar was locked in a kind of circular cage. She felt a presence of a Declonius at the top, slightly recognizing the familiar sensation coming in it. In front of her was a careless guard who dropped some keys inside the strange cage, so she decided to put her arm inside it, and just at that moment her arm was severed, while the keys levitated in front of it at the same time that it was split in half by a strange force imperceptible to the five senses, while the partner of said guard screamed. "Stop!" as he pointed his weapon and fired it, detonating several times against it without success, while she went down without the suit, only with the helmet on her head, while the guard's head was cut off, while she hummed a melody calmly, while she advanced, and that she felt a tremor but decided to continue. At the same time, outside the facility, Issei stood there using his boosted gear as he walked towards the entrance where several guards equipped with high-caliber weapons were aiming at him. "Take off your mask and gloves slowly and throw yourself on the ground, boy," one of them said out loud. "HMP," he made a sound of disgust as he raised his arm where he had the boosted gear and said with a touch of anger, "Dragon shoot," and instantly the attack was carried out with force, killing the guards and destroying the entrance door, while a huge tremor happened due to the impact of the attack. The guards inside began to shoot to kill Issei, however the bullets did not hit him due to their vectors, leaving the bullets right in front of him, while others fell to the ground as if a wall of the hardest material stopped them. "It's a Declonius. Use high-caliber anti-tank weapons," said one of them, who had a plaque that said Robert Elbraham Mayers next to several war medals. However, before anyone could say anything, Issei pointed with one of his fingers at him and said, "You are already dead," and instantly the man fell to the ground holding his chest and screaming in pain, and then stopped breathing and simply died. "Before those who provoked my anger, tremble before me, tremble before Kira," said the masked man as they began to shoot, and he simply tied his gauntlet and said, "Ascalon blade." He pronounced the glove with a powerful voice. Knight promotion, he thought at the same time that a beautiful European-style sword with purple and red details and a gold hilt with stylized crosses on the edges of the hilt came out of it, and the young man held it as he disappeared from the sight of the guards, and they frightened watched as their colleagues were cut in half and died at the hands of the young man, who simply appeared next to these to disappear and reappear next to another while cutting him in half with the sword, showing off his sword with grace and elegance, while the guards were decreasing their numbers more and more. Back with the young lady. She walked calmly while several guards shot at her left and right without any success, while one of them said, "Stay calm, as long as we are more than 2 meters away from her there will be no problem," he said to reassure his team. "Didn't you also say not to drop any objects?" said another, while a pen from one of the guards' corpses levitated in front of the pink-haired girl and shot out, instantly killing one of them as the pen had hit the subject's skull, while the others were torn to pieces on the spot until she got into an elevator and reached the first floor, since she was previously in the 6th basement of the place, and upon arrival she was greeted by several guards shooting at will while she just walked towards them, while almost all of them were torn to pieces, but one managed to escape running towards some large metal doors, totally desperate, falling near said doors while she approached him, and he was simply decapitated by that strange force at the same time that on the wall, a hand-shaped stain covered in blood activated a lever opening the metal doors, while behind her several guards and a man in a suit were waiting for her, all except for the man in a suit armed with high-caliber weapons, all in an almost deadly silence, but a young woman with brown hair with a yellow blouse and a brown skirt fell in front of her while she was carrying a cup of coffee that fell to the floor. "Kusaragi," the man in the suit shouted desperately while some guards tried to stop him from approaching the girl. Director Kurama, she said, alarmed. I'm sorry I messed up again, she said, apologizing without noticing the young girl next to her. Run away, Kusaragi, the man shouted desperately. Hey, what's going on here? He said as he stood up. Run away quickly, the man shouted as she looked at the naked girl with the helmet on her head and a blood mark in the shape of a hand on her shoulder. Stop, Lucy, the man shouted. Instantly the young brunette's head was separated from her body, levitating in front of the pink-haired girl. Shoot to kill, shouted the enraged man, and instantly the guards began shooting. With Issei. While Issei continued walking with his sword in hand, killing left and right all the guards he encountered until he came across an office worker who looked at him in terror. He just passed her by because for him she was not a target to kill, so he continued advancing through the halls, killing more and more guards, but leaving alive those who were office workers or scientists, although it is not as if Drake would let them escape since they fell dead from the effects of the death note. With Lucy. For her part, the pink-haired girl was shot by the guards at will. The body of the recently deceased brunette protected her by levitating in front of her, while the pink pen that the deceased carried with her levitated to shoot out against a guard next to the man in a suit, staining her left cheek with his blood, and instantly the guards ran out of ammunition, while one of them ran towards the young woman to hit her with his weapon, but instantly she had a hole in her chest, while her heart fell into the chest of one of the guards who looked terrified. The girl began to walk while several guards were torn to pieces, but the man in the suit, not looking at her with rage, passed by her. While he had a blood stain in the shape of a hand on his back, he took a radio and spoke into her. She's going to the exit, activate the barrier and lock her inside, he said, but instantly he heard the guard on the other side of the transmission shouting, and someone else took the radio to say. They shouldn't have provoked Kira, he said in a voice from beyond the grave, while the subject threw the radio and fell to his knees, but he quickly got up and spoke again on the radio. Prepare snipers at the exit, as he began to run to a security station. With Issei. Meanwhile, Issei was in front of a large metal door, and on the other side of it several meters away was the pink-haired girl with the helmet still on her head, but she stopped walking when she heard impacts behind it that seemed somewhat strong, but suddenly she felt something strange and stepped aside. While the masked man raised his gauntlet and charged a dragon shoot and threw it against the door, making it explode and shoot out a few meters, and there in front of him was a pink-haired girl with a strange helmet on her head. She was naked, and when he saw her, he created a magic circle from which a small music box came out, and the girl apparently reacted when she saw this while he put the small box on the ground and opened the lid, which had a hinge, so when he opened it a melody began to play. While tears could be seen coming out of the helmet as the girl hummed the same melody, and the young man began to sing now with the box in his hand and approaching her. Os lusti, meditabitur, sapientium, he sang in Latin as he stopped in front of her and closed the box as she stopped humming. I came for you, Lucy, it's me, Ice, he said as he extended his other hand to her. Ice, she said while hugging him. You took too long, she said while the helmet was destroyed by that strange force. I was weak, but now, he said as he showed her that strange gauntlet while huge bat-like wings came out of his back. I'm super strong, and I've come to take you with me to my house. I'm sure Irina will be happy to see you, he said, but she showed an annoyed expression and said. Who is that Irina? She demanded, annoyed. Ah, that's right, she is Hyoudou-kun, only in our childhood did she act very masculine, he said as she relaxed. I have N''T forgotten our promise from her, Lucy, I'm going to protect you, he said as he covered her with his red trench coat from her. At that moment a magic circle appeared beneath them, and they disappeared from the place, causing the man in the suit to scream in fury, because he expected them to leave through the door that the masked man destroyed, and he would shoot them with an anti-tank bullet. He did not notice that a naked girl with pink hair left the place falling unconscious into the sea. With Issei and Lucy. The pair of young people appeared in an abandoned warehouse where Issei put his forehead on the young pink-haired girl who was very embarrassed, while a small green glow appeared, and seconds later he detached himself from her a little and used a magic circle on Lucy so that he would come down, dressing her in a yellow blouse and green shorts with matching sandals, while a certain brunette with pigtails in a school uniform approached them. Instantly she said. Lucy-chan, how long? She ran towards her and hugged her tightly, while she hesitantly reciprocated the hug, but when she felt Issei join the hug she knew it was Hyoudou Irina. How long, Hyoudou-kun? I mean Hyoudou-chan, said the pink-haired girl as best she could because the two brown-haired girls were suffocating her. Yes, but call me Irina. Yes, by the way, I am an angel now, she said, while a pair of angel wings emerged from her back and a halo of light floated around her head. And I'm now a Diclonius demon dragon, I think, Issei said with doubt. He didn't even know what the poor thing was after everything that had happened. An angel and a Diclonius demon dragon, said the pink-haired girl with total doubt. She really didn't understand anything. That's right, in fact there are also gods from all mythologies and supernatural beings, he said, leaving the poor pink-haired girl more confused. Ah, just one thing, there are many people living in my house, and they are my friends from school, they are all demons, said the brown-haired boy. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone, he said as he formed a magic circle under his feet and appeared at the Hyoudou residence. Okay, here we are, we're going to your room, Lucy. I already prepared it especially for you, said the brown-haired boy, but she took him by the sleeve of his shirt and looked at him with puppy eyes. I want to sleep in the same bed as you, he said with a voice that would melt even the coldest heart. Ah, I knew you would say that, well let's go, said the brown-haired boy as they climbed the stairs until they reached the second floor, where all the members of the occult club were present, and this caused a little annoyance in Lucy. Nicen, who is she? Asia asked curiously, although she already knew who it was. She's Lucy, my first love and childhood friend of mine, and Hyoudou Issei said just like that, causing Asia to nod happily. Lucy, she's Asia Hyoudou, she's my younger sister, Issei said as Asia reached out her hand towards Lucy, and she took the blonde's hand and smiled happily at her. For her part, Riaz felt a little upset because her pawn did not introduce her first, but since she did not know if that girl knew about the supernatural world, she let it pass. Ah yes, she is Riaz Gremory, she is the president of the occult club and heiress of the Gremory clan, one of the demon clans of the underworld, said the brown-haired boy, causing Lucy to look at her strangely. She is a pure-blooded demon and I currently work for her as her servant. This made Lucy a little upset, being noticed by Issei, who decided to continue. She saved my life on one occasion and since then I am her pawn. I will explain it to you in more detail later. This alarmed Lucy a little, especially the part about saving her life. Who was it? Lucy said out loud, causing the brown-haired boy to become confused. What are you talking about, Lucy, said the brown-haired boy, confused. Who was the one who tried to kill you? She said angrily, but the brown-haired boy's hand on her shoulder made her calm down. She was a fallen angel named Rainer, but she is already dead, Riaz herself killed her, said Issei. I see. Then he turned to look at Riaz, but now it was a grateful look, thank you for saving Ice and for killing that fallen angel. Then he turned to look at Issei. Ice, what is a fallen angel? She said with genuine curiosity. They are angels who sinned and fell from God's grace. Their wings are black, said Riaz, answering the question. And they are enemies, Lucy said a little annoyed. They used to be, but thanks to Issei who helped form peace between the factions, they are now allies, said Riaz, but saw that Lucy was confused once again. Come Lucy, I will explain everything you need to know, said Riaz, inviting her to sit next to her, which Lucy did, while Issei remembered everything that happened since he became a demon, smiling at seeing that he kept his promise. The love of his life was now with him and he would never leave her alone again, he would protect her from anything and especially from those guys whom he would later destroy. After nightfall, Lucy slept next to Issei in his bed. Chapter 16. Hyoudou residence. Hyoudou Issei's room. Issei was sleeping peacefully, but a light breathing next to him woke him up, seeing his beloved Ella sleeping comfortably on his chest. Ella, some hair covered her face, so the brown-haired boy gently moved them to see his beloved Lucy's face. Ella in more detail. Upon feeling the soft touch of her, she woke up looking directly and with a soft smile at the brown-haired boy in front of her, he kissed her forehead. Good morning, Lucy, the brown-haired boy said softly, causing the pink-haired girl to blush. Good morning, Ice, she said with a sweet smile. Did you sleep well? He asked with a lot of love. Like never before in my life, Ice, she said. We have to go have breakfast, she said, looking at him in her eyes. You're right, I'm hungry, he said, looking at his stomach. They both got out of bed and Issei used a magic circle to change them both into light casual clothes. After going down the stairs, a certain delicious aroma came down through their nostrils. Lucy got excited as she smelled especially delicious, and without further ado, they arrived at the dining room where the rest of the occult club was waiting. Issei's mother, upon seeing Lucy, decided to greet. Hello son, good morning. Who is the young lady? The older brunette asked with a friendly smile. Mother, this is Lucy, the girl I told you about, said the brown-haired boy with a happy smile, seeing his mother smile with great happiness. So Ella, she's the girl you were crazy about since you were a kid. Ella, she's beautiful. I'm glad to meet you, Lucy-chan, said Issei's mother very happily as she looked at her more closely with great happiness. Actually, Lucy is not my first name, it's my last name, and it's Lucy, not Lucy, she said with a nervous smile. My name is Keed, Lucy Keed, she said smiling. Wasn't Lucy your name? The brunette said with genuine doubt as he used his Shinigami eyes to confirm that it was exactly as she had said. Issei-kun, you used to interrupt people a lot when they were talking when we met, you didn't even let me introduce myself properly, you just jumped up and said that you were Issei, and I was Hyoudou. She looked at him with a pout, and Keed herself did the same when she remembered that. Issei began to remember. Flashback. Issei and Irina were playing on the swings in the park when the brown-haired boy saw a pink-haired girl with a brown cap. He jumped off the swing and was in front of her. Hello, what's your name? I'm Issei and this is Hyoudou, said the brown-haired boy pointing at the other lighter brown-haired boy. And I am Lucy Ka. She was interrupted by the brown-haired boy. Lucy? What a beautiful name, shouted the brown-haired boy as he raised his hands excitedly, then he took her by the hand. Let's play, he shouted, taking her to the swings while she was perplexed, not knowing what to do. End of flashback. Issei looked at Keed and Irina and then said. I was really an idiot, he said in a flat voice, and these two nodded with a monotonous look. Sorry, he said with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck. Well, that happened a long time ago, son, and you were very energetic at that time. In fact, it was quite similar to how I met your mother, said Issei's father, lowering the newspaper a little to look at them. Your dad is right, Issei-kun, it's over now anyway, and you're not so energetic anymore, Irina said with a smile. I didn't expect that from your past, Issei. By the way, yesterday a package came for your sister. I threw it in the trash, said Ryak, while laughing and sighing heavily. Asia has been receiving gifts and invitations from a demon named Diodora Astaroth, and I'm sure he doesn't plan on stopping, she said annoyed. Isn't that our next opponent? Issei said seriously. The same, I would like to relax from all this rubbish for a day at least, Ria said, but then opened her eyes. We are going to the beach nearby, she said seriously, and the others including Issei's parents agreed they really needed to rest. Great, I'll have the house to myself, Ryak laughed as he watched the TV in the living room. I'm going to enjoy this day here, I doubt anything interesting is going to happen, he finished saying, while Riaz and Issei had a drop of sweat running down the back of their necks. Lately, Ryak was lazier and more inattentive than ever. After everyone was ready, they were teleported to the beach where they began to enjoy the day. Issei was surprised to see Riaz putting sunscreen on Asia in a certainly seductive way, so without further ado, he noticed the huge sand castle that Irina and Keed were making. Suddenly he felt a Declonius presence as well as his father and Keed, who prepared themselves for a possible attack, but far from that they all saw a pink-haired girl identical to Keed, and she was totally naked. When she saw them, she got scared and tried to run, but she fell face down on the ground and started crying like a little girl. Issei used a magic circle to dress her from a distance in a white one-piece dress, while Asia approached to heal her. She stopped crying when she stopped feeling pain and looked at Asia to happily say Nayu, and then hugged her, repeating the word over and over again. Keed on the other hand looked closely at that Declonius, which seemed harmless, noticing that they were much more than similar. It's a clone, Issei suddenly said. I'm sure she escaped after us, maybe they're looking for her with you. I'm sure it's a clone of yours, he said when he noticed that the auras were practically the same with a very slight difference. What are we going to do with her? Keed asked seriously. I guess take her home, she's practically your sister, said the brown-haired boy. Ria saw this and approached the pair. We could take her, she could even have your last name from her, although I must say there is one condition, he said. Broker Knight? The brown-haired boy asked. Said Riaz, I only have that piece left, your girlfriend is my second knight, he said calmly. I'm sorry, I asked him when he told me about the existence of the supernatural and the time we would live together if we became demons, he said, clapping his fingers together shyly. Issei just smiled and then looked at the pink-haired girl who was with Irina, Middle and Asia making more sand castles, until the pink-haired girl saw a seashell and ran towards Issei to show him the buttrumpeso, and the seashell broke and she started to cry. Issei approached and took the broken shell, joining it with his hands, and then using magic to join them again into one piece, causing the girl to hug him, repeating Nayu several times and very happy. She has the reasoning of a 2-year-old girl, he thought, to caress her head, while Keed approached and caressed her too, ending up being thrown to the ground by a hug from the girl who constantly repeated the word Nayu. I suppose her name is Nayu? I asked the others, who agreed, dismissing the matter. Then I heard a scandal watching Kiba and Gasper fighting, while the blonde did his typical red-eye, or shouted the word, every time he used his sacred gear. Believe in God, Brando, at least he doesn't dress like a girl anymore, thought the brown-haired boy with a drop of sweat on his neck as he saw how these two launched themselves towards him in attack, and he dodged them with difficulty to invoke his sacred gear. After the duel between the three boys, who ended up uniting their best techniques for a final attack aimed at the sea, they relaxed in the shade while talking about video games. You can tell he's really happy, said the father of this one looking at him from afar. He's a wonderful boy, said the brunette's mother with a happy smile as she watched Keed approach her son and steal a kiss from him before running away somewhat shyly to where Irina and Nayu were. When will we tell him? Said Issei's mother, touching her belly. This afternoon, said Issei's father, hugging her and caring for her belly. I love you, Miki-chan, he said with a sweet look. I love you, Goru, she said while kissing him. End of chapter. Yes, I know it was very short. I've been thinking about changing the name of the story to something more sensitive, and I'm open to suggestions. In this chapter 1 wanted to focus on the relationship between Issei and Keed, Lucy's real name, with a small fragment of how they met. For those who have seen Elfen Lied, they know that something really sad is coming in the story, such as the confrontation against Diodora, after that comes the battle against Loki, and then the real massacre that is coming begins. One last piece of advice, stay home, the coronavirus is no joke, take care of yourself and your family. Chapter 17. It was daytime at the Hyoudou residence where everyone was having breakfast. Issei was quite serious, since in a few days they would have their meeting against Diodora Astaroth, and the truth is that this guy gave him a bad feeling. Even Ryuk himself suggested finishing him off, since he had bad wishes for his adoptive sister Asia Hyoudou. For her part, Lucy was happy because she now had Naya Lucy, whom she adopted as her sister, even though she was a clone of her, but that was the least of it, since the day before they found out that the parents of her beloved Issei were expecting a baby, which excited everyone but worried Issei, since he knew that his mother's life was in danger due to a dangerous pregnancy. Especially when it came to an upcoming Diclonius. Asia for her part was a sea of emotions since she would be an older sister, but at the same time she was afraid of the next raiding game that was coming in these days. She was also excited to have met her sister-in-law who was kind to her and also had fun spending time with Nayu who was loved by everyone since she was like a little girl who is learning on the fly despite not knowing how to say a word other than Nayu. Asia laughed a little remembering how Kaneko and Nayu seemed to argue between Nias and Nias. For everyone it was both funny and bizarre, but they didn't care when they saw the pair launch into a hug, laughing loudly. Apparently they got along well. After a while, Keed and Ayu stayed home to help Issei's mother with the housework, since ever since Keed found out she was pregnant, she protected her very carefully. After arriving at the academy each one went to their own class. It must be said that the sports festival was happening in the next few weeks, so the brown-haired class decided who would participate in the events. Asia and Issei were left for the three-legged race at Kiryu's suggestion. The pair of siblings agreed and more so Issei when seeing the intentions that some of the male members of his class had with his sister. After that the rest was a normal school day until in physical education class, the pair of siblings were practicing so as not to trip, although it was funny how Asia almost knocked Issei down every so often because she lost synchrony with the brown-haired boy. After finishing they gathered in the occult club room where they were calm and preparing to do their jobs as demons when a magic circle appeared in the room. It was from the Astaroth house. The black-haired man with green noble clothes and a kind smile emerged from him, although Issei could clearly sense the evil in him, and he was not the only one. Everyone knew that this guy did not have any good intentions, much less with Asia. "How are you? I am Diodora Astaroth, I have come to see Asia." A few minutes later, the atmosphere felt serious. At the table were Riaz and Diodora, Akeno gave each of them a green tea, and after finishing that, she sat next to Riaz, both very serious. The others were behind the sofa where she was. Asa was next to Issei and Keed who had arrived to fulfill her duties as a reincarnated devil. The girl was really serious and upset, so much was her anger that she took Issei's hand to calm down a bit, and the brown-haired boy, realizing what he did, took a firm grip, giving her confidence. Keed took the blonde's free hand as a sign that she was with her. Diodora, seeing this, was jealous, but she did everything possible to maintain her image. "Ria-san, let me be clear. I would like to exchange bishops," said the black-haired man. "Are you talking about me? If so, I refuse. I don't bat for that side," said an arrogant Gasper who was wearing his Kuo Academy uniform, since Riaz once scolded him for wearing a Dio Brando cosplay. "I don't think it's because of that, Gasper," the brown-haired boy said in a joking tone, although his expression said it all. He was upset with the situation. "The servant I seek from Riaz-san is Bishop Asia Argento," Diodora said with a calm smile. Iridid took a breath to avoid showing his anger. "The ones I'll put to change are," he was interrupted by the Iridid. "I'm sorry, I'll be very direct with you too. I don't want to make any kind of change. The simple fact is that Asia is important to me, that's why there will be no exchange," the Rididi said harshly. "Is it because of his ability or because of his individual charm?" The black-haired man said with his calm smile that it was so annoying to the brown-haired man. "Who does this idiot think he is, asking that?" Keed said annoyed. "Both, actually, and I consider her a younger sister," said the Ridid with a smile. "I understand, I'm leaving for today, but I won't give up." Diodora got up from her seat and went to the blonde to take her hand and kiss her politely. "Asia, I love you. It's okay, fate won't betray us. Even if the world rejects us, I will overcome this." Enough. The brown-haired boy took Diodora's hand from Ella to pull him away from the blonde, but he reacted by taking his hand from Ella off of him. "Don't touch me, it disgusts me to be touched by a filthy dragon," Diodora said calmly, annoyed. The blonde slapped the demon to everyone's surprise. "Never call my brother that way again," she said annoyed. "I see, I really didn't think that Asa would feel attached to such a despicable being like a dragon," he said disappointedly. "What did you say?" said the disinterested brown-haired man. You are just a pathetic attempt at a man for wanting to seek to have my sister in that way. Issei smiled arrogantly, but inside he wanted to kill him. This guy is more than dead, ha 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 Harai thought. He'd held back the urge to attack the demon for insulting her boyfriend. Everyone else glared at the demon who was still smiling despite what she said. A pathetic attempt is you after all. You heard me, dragons are despicable beings that only follow their instincts, they should just disappear, said Diodora mockingly. Now say it without crying, you poor and ridiculous imitation of a man, Gasper answered curiously. You are so pathetic that you try to get a woman by such low means, you disgust me, he mocked even more. Gasper is absolutely right, you are pathetic, Issei said facing him. That doesn't matter, after the rating game I'll marry Asia, you'll see. With that said, Diodora left, leaving everyone upset by what he said. The brown-haired boy simply hit the wall, a little frustrated at not being able to kill him right there. Issei calmed down a little, here drink this tea Akeno told her, knowing that she was just as upset. That's impossible Akeno-san, I even held back too much when I insulted Issei-kun, said Keed, well below her, there were hand marks on the floor and walls. You're not the only one Keed-san the Redeed approaches Issei stay calm Issei, I assure you that in the rating game, we will make him pay for what he said. I'll take your word for it Riaz, I gain nothing by losing my cool aside from the insults of an overconfident sissy boy, they don't affect me he said, although Drake clearly knew the brunette was lying, and it's not like anyone had noticed. Later Issei returned with Kaneko from his contract, apparently they made them use cosplay among other things, when the brown-haired and the white-haired girl noticed that they were in a barrier. Hello Sekiryu Naya he said to a black-haired Nekomata that the pair knew very well. Hiroka ni Sama, what are you doing here? She said, upset. She seemed to ignore what Kaneko said and looked at the brown-haired boy with some desire. Ni Sekiryu-kun, would you make babies with me Naya she said to the dismay of the two. No the brunette said simply, and she seemed to be a little disappointed, my heart belongs to one woman and my body too besides, it's a bit uncomfortable that you ask me when I threatened to kill you almost a while ago, he said with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck, what do you really want? Stop playing games he said seriously. Bored she said with a pout, Volley is the one who wants to talk to you she said, and the silver-haired man came out of an alley. I came to warn you, Hyoudou, Diodora is not what he seems he has ties to the Cows Brigade he said seriously. It's weird that miracle boy comes to warn me of a possible danger when he's supposed to be my enemy, said the brown-haired boy, sighing bored, and a vein appeared on his forehead at his nickname. Anyway, thanks, I guess on the other hand, it's noticeable that you've trained, said the brown-haired boy, pointing at him. I decided to listen to you, I will train until your vectors are useless before my power said this arrogant. Well, I hope that day comes, said the brown-haired boy defiantly. Volley smiled and left with Kuroka who gave a last greeting to Kaneko who watched everything next to Issei. I think I once heard that accidents happen in rated games well one will happen soon, Issei said as his eyes glowed red and a sinister smile appeared on his face after all I am Kira, the brown-haired boy thought looking forward evilly. By the way, mate the Death Note already has enough power to kill high-class demons, said the dragon to the brown-haired boy through his mind. Just as I planned he smiled smugly. That Diodora guy he's really screwed up ha 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 Hayak laughed uncontrollably while watching everything from the roof of one of the houses. Only one thing was certain in the future. Diodora Astareth has his days numbered. Chapter 18. Days had passed and the Gremory team was preparing for the raiding game against Diodora Astareth, only there was a last-minute change in the team, if you could call it that. Issei Nai-san, why can't I go? I want to help Asia said sadly, while Nayu stroked her head and looked sadly at Asia. Diodora is worse than you think, and it's possible that he has a trap for us. I prefer to have you safe at home with my father than to risk you on the battlefield, said the brown-haired boy seriously, but with a soft look, I don't want to risk my Hyoudou. Asia nodded sadly, but smiled a little promise that you will come back safely, she said as seriously as she could, and at her side, Nayu imitated her. We will return safely to Asia, take care of her Nayu he said, and the pink-haired girl nodded without understanding, or so the brown-haired boy thought, without further ado, they left in a magic circle from the place to the battlefield. Raiding game zone. The Gremory team arrived at the place and as they suspected there was not even an announcement that started or something so everyone was on guard, soon several demons from the faction of the ancient Mayu arrived at the place, along with a certain black-haired man. I see your Asia-chan he said clearly annoyed. It's where you can't reach it, on the other hand, you're more than dead Diodora Astareth said Issei in anger. Don't say my name so confidently you damn stinky dragon he said in anger and then turned to a rather twisted smile you know, my plan was to tell this to Asia Argento, but well, I guess not everything goes as you want, he said with a mocking and even more twisted smile. What the hell are you talking about? Akeno said angrily. You would do me the honors, Beatrin said, the black-haired man looking at a demon who was next to him. Did you know what Diodora Asteroth's obsession is like? His hobby is wonderfully Machiavellian, and just listening to it excites me, said the subject, smiling with a touch of madness. That guy's taste in women is very exquisite. It seems he has a great fetish for girls affiliated with the church, nuns to be more exact. Nuns? Wait a minute, wasn't Asia a nun? Keed said in disbelief, slowly turning into anger. And his favorites are the strong believers, do you understand what I'm trying to say? The servants you see here, more specifically his entourage, all came from the church, continued the demon next to Diodora, who smiled satisfied when he saw the anger in Issei's eyes. The same can be said of the girls who live in his house. They are all recognized nuns or saints from different areas. He does not hesitate to seduce them and make them his toys. Without a doubt that is what is called the demonic whisper, he said really mockingly, or rather he almost shouted it. No damn it, Ria said for the first time, who was furious. Ria's bit her lip in anger, Kaneko gritted her teeth in anger, Akeno emanated rays, the vampire looked at everything with great anger, while darkness began to emerge from him, while Keed held back as much as she could not kill him at that moment. The one who wrote the script for Asia being expelled from the church was none other than Diodora Asteroth, Beatrin said maliciously as Issei began to emanate a lot of energy from the anger he felt and it surrounded him. The scenario was the following: one day a rich demon boy who loves to have sex with nuns found a beautiful girl as his ideal. He couldn't stop wanting to have sex with her since he saw her, but he thought it would be difficult to get her out of the church, so he used a different plan to get that girl expelled. The saint was a kind girl like no other, and also she received advice from someone that a sacred gear in the hands of a saint can cure even demons. That's what she heard from me. He smiled with much more malice as Issei could no longer control himself, so he bit his lip until it bled a little, and he thought, maybe they'll expel her from the church if another of the believers sees her cure a demon. That way he can have sex with her, the scar, it will be worth it all. That's what our friend here thought. The pink-haired girl remembered something the blonde had told her the night before. I don't regret saving him. That made her feel very angry. Then our dear friend thought, when she gets expelled from the church she believed in, then her life is ruined and she will no longer believe in God and come to me. That's what he thought, hahaha. Even the painful expressions of the saints is his delight. He saves them from despair and then wraps them. He wraps their bodies and souls. That's his ultimate entertainment. He's been rapping and making girls from the church his own. Diodora Asteroth is a demon who loves to buck the believers of the church. He ended up laughing insanely at the anger of everyone present. No one could avoid the feeling of hatred that was in them. In fact, it was quite the opposite, knowing that Diodora Asteroth was the worst kind of trash that exists and deserves to die. But before anyone said anything, time stopped for several of the demons of the old Mag faction, and those who weren't electrocuted, torn apart by vectors, burned alive by Senjutsu flames, and the same guy who was previously smiling and telling everything Diodora had done with his entourage partner was bleeding from what was once his left arm. For his part, Issei was on Diodora Asteroth from one second to the next, hitting his fist with the boosted gear in his balance breaker, throwing the black-haired man somewhat far from the place, while in the background the screams of terror of the demons of the Cows Brigade were heard like a symphony of terror. Ahaha, perfect, I see your great power, but it is not enough. I who received the power of office, I will kill you with one blow. Diodora received a brutal blow to the stomach that made him bleed. Immediately Issei grabbed the demon by the neck and threw him to one side of the place with force, only to slam him against the ground with his vectors. What were you saying? He said as he walked slowly towards the demon with steps that were echoed in the place like the desperate sound of the steps taken by an executioner before killing. Damn dragon, I'm a high-class devil, brother of the current Beelzebub. Diodora stood up and raised his hand to charge demonic power into it. There's no way a noble like would lose me to a meanly dragon like you, I shouted in anger. The demon launched several blasts of his power. These were well charged with power, but Issei did not even bother to dodge them, destroying them with his vectors. The brown-haired boy continued walking towards Diodora at a slow pace, only to see that he had created a barrier. Ah, now you can't do anything to me, he said, smiling arrogantly. You're an idiot, that woe and apostrophe T work, the brunette said darkly, only to destroy the barrier without much effort before Diodora's horrified expression of hers. The chestnut gives him a strong blow to the stomach that makes him spit blood and break some ribs, causing extreme pain to the demon. Do you like seeing the painful expressions on girls? Let's see if it's as fun when you have her, he said, and then broke his arm with his vectors, making him slow and causing a lot of pain in Diodora. The sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly. What did you think? It seems you don't like it if you're the one who suffers, he said, and then hit him in the face, sending him flying against a large rock on the spot. No, it's impossible. I who obtained the power of office, I who am superior to Aegers, I who would crush BL, since in no way will I lose against the heir of the great king who has no talent, not even Gremory who has affection for his miserable servants. The demon charged demonic energy in his only hand to attack. The brown-haired boy raised his hand and concentrated dragon power in 1 point for a dragon shoot. I am Diodora of the House of Astaroth. I will not let a miserable and filthy dragon defeat me. The demon launched his attack in a last attempt to win. But unfortunately for him, the brown-haired boy's attack devoured his with ease, and it went towards him. The red sphere passed a hair's breadth from his face, and it went through the rock of the place, to then continue its way to one of the nearby mountains to then explode, and the same explosion absorbed the remains of it to then disappear. Diodora remained where he was, sitting and trembling with fear. Looking up, he noticed the brunette looking at him. He had taken off her mask as a red aura violently enveloped him. "You are very unlucky, you will die today," said the brown-haired boy with a look of contempt. Ryuk, who had been there from the beginning, couldn't stop smiling and looked at Issei. "It would be a shame if all this ended so quickly, don't you think, Issei?" said the Shinigami with a smile that was extremely creepy. Warning: gore scene in progress. If you are sensitive, skip the scene. Issei smiled the same way Ryuk did, causing Diodora to cry in fear and scream in panic, only to see how Ascalon was in the hands of the brown-haired boy. Issei lowered the sword, slowly cutting off Diodora's left foot, making him scream in horror and pain. Issei wasted no time in punishing the black-haired man once again and hit Diodora in the face relentlessly while knocking out several teeth and shattering the black-haired man's jaw, who screamed in pain as best he could. "Shut up, you'll never speak again," Issei said hatefully as he then stuck his hand into Diodora's mouth and ripped out his tongue from her. Blood splattered everywhere and all over Issei's face as the raven-haired man screamed in horrible pain. "You'll never fly again," Issei continued as he forced out Diodora's wings with his demonic power, before ripping them both off his back. Diodora screamed in torment as Issei continued to stomp on one of his feet. This shattered every bone in Diodora's foot and nearly liquefied him from the burning aura surrounding Issei's body. "You'll never walk again," he continued as he held Diodora with his vectors and broke both of his legs in dozens of places, while Diodora's right foot was brutally torn off. "You will never have Hex again," Issei screamed before he stuck Ascalon into Diodora's groin and slowly moved it to pull it out forcefully. A mist of blood sprayed everywhere as Issei simultaneously crushed Diodora's crotch and cauterized it. The blood-curdling scream echoed throughout the area and Diodora began to cry pathetically in indescribable pain. Blood was everywhere now, and it was truly a wonder he wasn't dead yet. "You'll never see again," Issei said as he grabbed Diodora by the head with his vectors and pressed on Diodora's eyes, making him scream even more in pain. After taking them out, Issei threw the black-haired man to the ground. Diodora groaned in agony, but could not understand what was happening now due to the absence of his eyes and his extreme pain. He could only hear the steps of his future executioner advancing towards the "You will stop living," Issei concluded as he took out the death note and wrote Diodora Asterisk's name on it, but not before making the black-haired man's dying body play the death note. "The fate of anyone who owns a death note, their soul will not go anywhere and will remain in an eternal limbo. Not even a Longinus like the Sephiroth Grail will be able to get them out of there." Ha 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 ha. Ryuk laughed macabrely. End of the gore scene. Issei saw how Diodora Asterisk's corpse was right in front of him, and without further ado, he incinerated it with his own flames that Tannen had taught him to use. He watched as Keed came running in his direction and behind her the rest of the entourage along with Irina, who was sent by Michael to help them. Suddenly he felt a chill. The pink-haired girl just smiled and then went towards him, but a flash of light enveloped the girl, who disappeared before everyone's sight. She was gone. "Pioneers," Rhea said, quite angry when she arrived. "This is my first time meeting you in person, sister of the fake Mau. My name is Shalba Beelzebub, the successor of the true great demon king Beelzebub. I am different from the blood relationship of the fake one you fought before." She sees Diodora's burning corpse. "Diodora Asterisk, I let you my power and saw this result. In the match against Aegers, you used the office serpent without my permission and let the enemy predict our plan. You were truly foolish," she said with contemplation. "Keed, what have you done with Keed?" Irina shouted angrily. "Foolish reincarnated angel, the girl was enveloped in light. Being a demon, use your head." Irina trembled with rage as Riaz did. Many others were horrified to realize what happened. "Now Surzich's sister, I know it's sudden, but I need you to die here. My goal is to kill every close relative of the Mau, even though your stupid servant got there first with Diodora." "So you intend to kill the Glaciolabolas, Asterisk, Citri, and us, the Gremory," she said furiously. "That's right, it's just unpleasant. We, the true successors, are called old men by you, the family of the current demon kings, and it is something very difficult to bear," he said while making a sigh. "Cruciry Asmodeus has died, but it will not be a problem. As long as I am active we can still advance, even without Vali. Beelzebub's true value is great. Now is my memory when I return. Surzich's sister, I will kill you." He finished saying while smiling with some arrogance. You don't attack the Mao directly, but you do attack their relatives, coward, that's what you are, she shouted furiously as her aura surrounded her. Irina, I saved her, I told her that we would go home, that we would go to Kuo Academy together, tell me that she is hiding, tell her to come out, that it is time to go home. She is part of the family, she is. Irina hugged Issei in an attempt to calm her pain. Pathetic, listen carefully, stupid dragon, the girl was sent to the dimensional gap, without protection her body must have already been torn to pieces, she is dead. Dead, Kid, is she dead? The brown-haired boy said in shock as tears fell from his eyes. That's right, you didn't save her, you failed to save her. Beelzebub's descendant mocked him. The brunette gave a deafening scream into the air, his mind unable to bear what he heard. Irina tried to calm him down, but it was useless. After stopping screaming, the brown-haired boy stood up unsteadily and put Irina aside. To her surprise, he began to walk slowly towards the demon. Ria's Gremory, everyone get out of this place right now. If you don't want to die, it's best that you all get out of here immediately. Snap. A distant snapping sound was heard by the brown-haired boy, and he managed to pay attention to the place. The whole place was surrounded by a green aura, and it seemed as if time would begin to rewind to the point where Kid was running towards him again, and time began to run again, but it was slow. Issei did not hesitate to fly at maximum speed towards her and get her out of the way, covering her with his dragon wings, while launching a dragon shoot at where Shalba was, which she had to dodge. Did you manage to detect me in time? It doesn't matter, said this arrogant Queeners. Ria said, quite angry. The future corpse, Issei shouted as he flew towards him at high speed and hit him with all his vectors at full power. The brown-haired boy shouted to finish killing him by crushing him with his 512 vectors, increased in power by his balance breaker. Chapter 19. Azazel was watching as the Gremory team was being taken to a safe place. They had arrived a few moments ago, and things were not looking good. The Hyoudou seemed out of control, so Kid's help was needed to calm him down. Surziches looked at what was literally just rubble and some masses of flesh, bones, viscera and blood on the ground of what was once Shalba Beelzebub. Knowing that the current Hyoudou did this only with his vectors and his sacred gear was shocking, he looked to the side where he watched his friend and partner Ajuka look at the ashes of what was once his brother. He sighed and hoped that Ajuka would not react badly. You know, Surziches, he said, drawing his attention, I had a feeling that this would end like this, he said with a tired voice. I warned him so many times that what he was doing would end up causing his death, but he always claimed that since he was the brother of a Mao they would never harm him. I can simply say that in the end he got what he deserved. No, even being killed by the Hyoudou should be considered an honor that he did not, I deserve, said Ajuka with annoyance. You say that, but I know you're affected, Ajuka, said Surziches looking at him directly, but was surprised to see his smile as if nothing would happen. Do you remember that I was working on a project after I managed to make the evil pieces? It's finished, Ajuka said without any concern at all. And what exactly was that? Surziches said, intrigued. I have managed to perfectly clone a demon, and not only that, it can be done in mass, he said smiling as he looked at Azazel, who looked at him expectantly. That catches my attention, Azazel said shamelessly. I guess it doesn't only work on demons, right? And you are not wrong, with this we will solve at least to a lesser extent the lack of angels, fallen and demons more quickly. Michael was already informed this morning and was happy to know that heaven for the first time in a long time will have new pure-blooded angels, said Ajuka, proud of his work. And that's why you don't care about your brother's death, right? Azazel said. Certainly, Ajuka replied. I already had a replacement ready for him, a more decent one at least, he said laughing with irony. I may despise my younger brother, but it would break my heart to see them suffer for his death, said Ajuka. So basically you're not upset that the Hyoudou killed him? Surziches said seriously. As I said, it was an honor that he did not deserve to have, dying at the hands of a celestial dragon. Let's be honest, if the elders found out that he is a traitor, they would use him as a breeding machine until he gave an offspring, and then they would execute him. If they do not find out that he is dead, I can use my brother's replacement, and we just say that he was traumatized and injured by the attack on the raiding game, Ajuka said calmly. It's no problem for me. What do you say, Azazel? Surziches said, looking at the fallen man. The political problems of the demons are not the concern of the fallen. Apart from that, I have to congratulate the damper brat. He has improved a lot in the use of his sacred gear. I'm leaving with it, he left in a magic circle. I should have imagined that answer coming from him, Surziches said with a drop of sweat on the back of his neck. But he's right, said Ajuka with another drop of sweat on his brow. This will interest Issei, Ike said with a certainly scary smile. Well, with the Gremory group. Issei was sleeping calmly on Kid's lap. As soon as he calmed down, he hugged her and fell asleep. If that was really the case, then he was taken by Drag inside the boosted gear. I never imagined that he would come to care so much about me, said Kid, drawing everyone's attention. What did you expect? He's been looking for you for years, Irina said, watching the brown-haired boy sleep peacefully. I have joined my entourage solely to rescue you in exchange for helping me get to the top of the rating games, Ria said smiling proudly. I don't regret having done it, he's a good right hand and an excellent strategist, Ria said, while Keed caressed the brown-haired boy when Ria saw Ryuk arrive. Listen carefully Riaz and you too Drake, the Demon King Ajuka Beelzebub has clones of the idiot that killed Issei, but they are not the same as the idiot apparently, whatever warns him that the idiot Diodora is going to appear in public again, but it will not be the one that killed him, but a replacement clone. Don't let this impulsive guy end up killing his cover, whatever I'm going home, the Dungeon Seeker manga is not going to read itself said Ryuk, although the last thing almost made the Redeed sweat. True, he's even rejected some girls from the academy, and boy is he popular, said Akeno obviously not knowing that the Shinigami was there as well as the rest who continued their conversation. I certainly reject many Ria said smiling mockingly at seeing Keed's jealous face, see it this way, he is so loyal to you that even if you weren't there, his heart was only yours, she smiled with a bit of malice, it's surprising for a dragon. What do you mean? Keed said intrigued. Issei-kun, being a dragon, unintentionally attracts many girls and dragons are generally seen in polygamy, even more so if it is a celestial dragon said Akeno, playing along with Ria's. Senpai is going to end up attracting a lot of girls, I have no doubt about that, said Gasper posing with Kiba. Yes, that will definitely happen Kiba said, leaving his strange pose to look at Keed. It's the nature of a dragon Kaneko said monotonously. Keed was filled with jealousy, but then watched as the rest of the group burst into laughter. What's wrong? Keed said, surprised at what was happening in front of her. Nai-san would never do that, Kaneko said cheerfully and laughing a little. Yeah, he just kept saying he was going to rescue Lucy all the time, Gasper said this time. There's no doubt about it, Issei-kun said that not even all the women in the world could ever replace what he felt for you, Kiba said while smiling. She rejected me a while ago, in fact, said Akeno as she watched Keed look at her in disbelief. Well in my case we both rejected my parents' idea of getting engaged, Issei is a great ally and friend, but that's all I have my eyes on someone else, said the blushing Redeed. Ria's on Sama Eki, look inappropriately at Asia senpai the Nekasu said monotonously. Everyone looked in disbelief at Ria's who turned red. I was N''T talking about Asia she screamed, her face was completely red. She's actually in love with a Hikari-uko, said Kaneko making everyone stare at her, when she met him at the faction meeting Ria's senpai smelled like pheromones, and the Hikari-uko picked them up, said the Nekomata monotonously. This left everyone present in shock, and at that moment the boosted gear made an appearance. Indeed, the Nekasu is right, and that was the reason why my partner did not kill him in the first place, the dragon said loudly causing everyone to look incredulously at Ria's, who hid her face from everyone, and Gasper laughed loudly drawing everyone's attention. That's nothing, I like Kaneko he said without hesitation causing her to blush. Diakun Baka she said blushing and looking to the side. That's not all Gasper said, drawing everyone's attention, Kiba likes Shinra senpai he said, causing Kiba to stay still and then blush. Gasper shouted the Gremory Knight. I thought he was gay, Keed said quietly, but everyone heard her she forgot that demon's ears are very sharp. I'll pretend I didn't hear that, Keed-san, the swordsman said indignantly. After everyone laughed. Meanwhile in the mental space inside the boosted gear. Issei found himself in front of quite a few people, they were the former wearers of the boosted gear, and all of them were held in the air by the brown-haired boy's vectors in the air being taken by his neck. So the Juggernaut drive huh? And you bunch of morons were trying to get me to unleash such power, only to end up like you, the brown-haired boy said with clear anger. The power of the Juggernaut drive is the only solution, the only one he didn't finish when he was literally destroyed by the vectors, leaving the rest of the previous bearers with fear in their eyes. The difference between you and me is clear, you are just old memories of carriers who died pathetically, and I am Kira, said the young brown-haired boy arrogantly try again one more time, and you already know what your fate will be, said the brown-haired boy, letting all the previous carriers fall which held a look full of terror before this subject, who should not be able to even touch them. But there he was with that strange power for them subduing them as if nothing although everyone's attention was taken when a huge red dragon appeared, Drag the Welsh dragon. Comrade, I have a message from Ryuk, this caught Issei's attention, it seems that the Hyoudou Beelzebub has clones of his own younger brother and will use one of them as a cover to hide that you annihilated him, according to what I understood from him, he does not have the memories of the original, so you do not have to worry, said the Welsh dragon to his carrier. I see, as long as it doesn't cause problems everything will be fine, said the brown-haired boy without interest in the subject, although grateful for knowing it, because if he didn't know when he saw the subject, he would surely kill him without considering anything, I'll give you a warning. "Don't mess with me or you will pay dearly," said the brown-haired boy, finally coming out of his mental space in the boosted gear, being observed with fear by the previous wearers, but above all with interest by a couple of them in particular, which when they arrived from the depths of the sacred gear, observed the whole matter. "Elsha, what do you think of him? Is he worthy?" asked a man in black armor. "It is Belzerd, it is," he said seriously. Chapter 20. Issei was with Keed at the entrance of his house, while his mother, accompanied by Asia and Nayu, smiled at them. Keed was wearing a brown cap, a white blouse and a very cute pink dress. Issei was wearing light brown pants and a light blue shirt along with a backpack, and he was carrying an umbrella just in case. "We're leaving, we'll be back tonight, maybe tomorrow," Issei said, smiling as he took Keed's hand. "Hi, take care of yourselves and good luck," said his mother, smiling, while Asia and Nayu smiled a lot and said goodbye to the couple. Nayu did it in her own way. Issei nodded and so the couple began to walk. After a while they arrived at the Kuo Mall where Issei took Keed to play in the arcades. The girl smiled with genuine happiness because this would be the first date of her life, as well as the first time she could truly relax in her life. Since Issei rescued her, she felt so calm. Suddenly the headaches in that strange voice suddenly disappeared. Her life had taken such a drastic and beautiful change for her. She now had what she never had, the warmth of a family, and she sincerely wished to one day form a family with the boy. Suddenly she noticed that Issei brought her a necklace made of a half orange, only to notice that Issei was wearing the other half around his neck. That made her blush quite a bit, because that necklace said that they were basically each other's better half. She smiled so pretty as she let the brown-haired boy put the necklace on her. Issei smiled and kissed her on the forehead, taking advantage of the fact that they were in that position. Suddenly it occurred to him to take her to the dance machine, where they had a lot of fun, even though they lost from time to time. Certainly both they were very clumsy in the game. Then they went to the car game where they competed against each other to see who was better. Keed won by a lot. Issei just laughed happily seeing the pink-haired girl so happily win. Keed, as they walked to play the next game, saw the claw machine where there was a white teddy bear plush with a heart on its chest. Without noticing it, her eyes were shining. Issei, after seeing the bear with such happy eyes, decided to put into practice his ability to take out stuffed animals, failing a couple of times, until he finally managed to take out said stuffed animal and gave it to the pink-haired girl, who delightedly took the stuffed animal and hugged it with love. The brown-haired boy smiled, knowing that it was worth it to get him out without using his power. Today he wanted them to just be a couple of normal teenagers and not think about anything related to the supernatural. Keed suddenly jumped towards him and gave him a kiss on the lips, to the surprise of the brown-haired boy, who reciprocated by imprinting an Ella's kiss, all his feelings of Ella for her, his dear and beloved Keed Lucy. After separating, they held hands again and went to a cafe that was in the place. It was a fairly simple and humble place, but that only gave the place more magic for the couple. They both sat down and looked at the menu. Keed ordered a lemon pie and a chamomile tea, while the chestnut ordered a flan and a black tea. While they waited for their order, they talked very excitedly about how they had spent their time at the arcade center. Keed used to make very nice expressions when she thought of the brown-haired boy who looked at her as if amazed. She talked about how much fun she had on the dance machine, and the brown-haired boy couldn't help but say that he also had fun playing on said machine. The waitress arrived with their orders, and they began to taste them calmly, since it was barely 11 a.m., so they had plenty of time. Keed suddenly saw Issei's spoon near her mouth with a bit of flan. He offered it to her with a smile for her to try. She tried it and got excited because it tasted incredible. Then she took a bit of lemon pie with her spoon and gave it to the brown-haired boy to try, who tasted it with a very happy smile. After finishing eating, they went to the cinema to watch a movie. Keed was looking forward to it as she saw several couples commenting on how much they liked the movie. Without further ado, they entered the room and took a seat right in the middle of the place. Soon the tape started and so they watched a movie. Keed soon leaned on Issei and he hugged her without further ado, put his face on the girl's neck and breathed in her scent. She smells like roses, the boy thought, while unknowingly his pupils were turned, although the effect did not last long as he concentrated on watching the movie and caressing the girl's belly, who watched the movie enchanted. And at the same time let herself be pampered by the boy, who from time to time gave her kisses on the head. After finishing the movie, they left the mall to take a bus to the amusement park. On the way they talked about the movie. Issei watched as she excitedly told him her favorite parts about the film. He, for his part, gave her some comments about the characters. Inside, the boy cursed himself for being so smart and so straight, also for not knowing how to let himself go a little. Keed noticed that and gave him a kiss on her lips just to look at him in her eyes and take him by both cheeks to tell him, "I don't care about anything else in the world but being by your side, I love you." The brown-haired boy blushed profusely, but that didn't stop him from taking her by the chin and giving her a kiss which lasted quite a while. "Thank you, Keed, you are my light. You are my everything," the boy told her, and she blushed a lot. Several couples on the bus laughed since it was obvious that it was a first-time couple, so they couldn't help but think about how cute they looked. Many guys gave their girls some cuddles after seeing the brown-haired boy pampering the pink-haired girl who looked at him with her eyes shining. After arriving at the park, the brown-haired boy did not hesitate to take her on several rides and visit several stands, and at one of the shooting ranges, he saw a stuffed red dragon. He'd suddenly took the weapon and tried to knock down the stuffed animal for her beloved brown-haired boy. Despite failing a few times, she was persistent and managed to knock it down, and after receiving it, she gave it to her beloved Issei, who accepted it happily. After that they went to the go-karts that were in the place, and the brown-haired boy drove her along the path. Well, the girl had a great time seeing how the brown-haired boy seemed to have some skill behind the wheel. Then she realized that the brown-haired boy had let himself be beaten in the arcades. Just to see her smile, she blushed and looked at him with a lot of mixed emotions. Issei, after walking the pink-haired girl who was clinging to her arm, went to a stuffed crepe stand and bought a blackberry one for him and a red berry one for Kid, who was happily tasting it. After enjoying the park's attractions a little more, they decided to go to the buses to take one to the beach. It took them an hour to get to the beach, and they saw that there was a restaurant and inn in the place where a group of girls and a boy with a strange X-shaped scar on his chest were promoting the place. Without further ado, the couple went to the place to register because they had decided to stay that night since the place looked very cozy. However, Issei noticed that he didn't have his umbrella. Surely he lost it somewhere after getting off the bus. The pair of teenagers went to a part of the beach where there weren't many people because they wanted some privacy. The boy with scars gave them a bucket of water and some fireworks. Since his group had a lot, Issei thanked him for it, and without further ado the boy left because a purple-haired girl called him with her hand. Without further ado they lit some flares. Issei noticed how beautiful Kid looked as she was illuminated by the tinkling of the flare's light. He felt very warm until he noticed that his flare had run out and hers, but neither of them looked away from the others until they heard several fireworks in the sky in the background. Issei remembered that there was a festival nearby. Unfortunately, it was in a temple, so they couldn't enter, and that depressed him a little. But then he remembered that in a month there would be a school trip to Kyoto, and since Kid would go back to school as soon as the holidays ended, he smiled at the thought that they would enjoy their vacation there. After playing with the fireworks a little, Kid ran towards the sea and danced a little in the water, raising a lot of water due to her movements. For Issei, it was so magical to see her in the light of the sunset. She smiled at him. "Come on, Issei," the girl told him from a distance while making signs to him. The boy went and began to run, being followed by the brown-haired boy, only to suddenly stop and throw water at him with his hands. The brown-haired boy played along, and they began to throw water at each other while laughing. After a while they ended up quite tired and lay down on the sand. Kid looked at Issei for a second and smiled with a blush on her cheeks. "I learned something from all this," said Kid, getting Issei's attention. "I learned that no matter what, as long as I'm with you, I'm going to have a lot of fun and smile a lot. You give me so much calm," she said, quite blushing. "Let's continue together forever," the girl told him, taking him by her hands. "It will definitely be like that, Kid," said the brown-haired boy to pull her towards him. Lying on the sand while the sunset still illuminated them, they kissed passionately while looking into each other's eyes. Then they noticed how it began to get dark until finally night came. Issei noticed how the seawater had bioluminescence. Kid ran towards the sea to show the brown-haired boy the beautiful blue color of the seawater, and he was mesmerized to see Kid behind such a beautiful natural phenomenon. Without further ado he went with her, and they watched together as the waves of the sea were bright blue in color. After that they returned to the inn and took their room, where they noticed that the two futons were together. The pink-haired girl blushed but took the brown-haired boy's hand, and Issei smiled at her. Suddenly they knocked on the door of their room, and there was the boy with the scars who told them that dinner was ready. So without further ado, they both changed their clothes with a magic circle and went to the dining room where the rest of the group was already seated. He noticed that the girls looked at the boy a lot, and he didn't notice. Then he noticed that the youngest of the group looked at him carefully, only to suddenly bother the blue-haired girl of the group. Kid and Issei laughed a little at the things that happened in said group of young people. After dinner the couple went to the balcony where they could see the sea. Kid noticed that the brown-haired boy had his small music box in his hands, and without further ado, he opened it, taking out a small paper note. The girl blushed immensely when she recognized said paper. "You know, when I found this note in my music box I was very surprised," said the brown-haired boy, smiling and blushing a little. Kid was blushing quite a bit because she remembered well what the note said. She herself had written it and kept it there. "Issei," she said, but the brown-haired boy showed her the note where it said, "Issei-kun, I've had a lot of fun these past few days. I wish this would last forever, waking up in the mornings next to you. When we're older, would you marry me? Signature. Lucy." The girl blushed until she looked like a tomato. Poor thing. Then she noticed how Issei took her hand. Kid said softly and then knelt down. "Marry me." He opened the music box again, where inside there was a ring in its little box which was open. Tears filled Keed's eyes as she looked at him, still not believing that this was happening. She noticed the warm look that the brunette gave her, and without expecting it, she hugged him tightly while in the distance the waves broke in through the bright blue water into the air. Issei, seeing that, and looking at Keed, smile, swore that he had seen the most beautiful thing he had ever believed. "I accept ice," she said, wiping away her tears. "I can't imagine my life without you. I love you," the girl shouted as she looked into her eyes, and then kissed him. Issei kissed back as he felt tears running from her eyelids and down her cheeks, only to feel a tear roll down from the girl's cheek to her cheeks. In tears they looked at each other and smiled. Then the brown-haired boy put the ring on her ring finger so they could look at each other. Suddenly the group of kids jumped out and hunted the place down, throwing confetti and streamers. "Congratulations on your engagement," they said together, making the couple blush, who didn't know what to do. "It was very romantic," said one of them, and the others agreed. Issei watched as the boy gave him a thumbs up and he did the same. Without further ado, everyone went to their respective rooms. Without further ado, the couple went to bed, and this time they were cuddled up while they both slept. Chapter 21. Issei and Keed were returning on the bus to the city of Kuo. After arriving at the bus station, they decided to walk towards the Hyoudou residence, where a very happy Asia greeted them, followed by a lively Nayu who jumped into the couple's arms, repeating Nayu several times. After that they entered the mansion while Asia told them that the Hyoudou couple went on a cruise around the world courtesy of Riaz, who welcomed them from the table drinking tea with a Keno who tried to embarrass the couple, but did not succeed in her goal, because Nayu interrupted her. Apparently she wanted her to prepare some sandwiches. After a while, Keed and Nayu went for a walk in the park, because even though Nayu was a clone of her, she really loved her like a sister, and without further ado, the pair of Declonius went for a walk. Issei was about to leave when someone knocked on the door of his house, so he opened it, seeing a preteen girl with black hair and a cream-colored sweatshirt, and next to her a puppy which was barking happily at the brown-haired boy. Riaz, who was coming with Asia, observed the young girl in detail, noticing the umbrella in her hand before realizing a detail that made her frown. "Oh, I found this umbrella with this address. I came to deliver it," he said, timidly extending the umbrella to the chestnut tree. "I see," said the brown-haired boy, smiling. "Thank you very much." "It's nothing, I just did what anyone would do," she said, sadly. "Your little dog is so cute," Riaz said, smiling kindly. "Yes, he is my friend," he said, smiling. "Friend?" Doritid asked, somewhat curious. "I didn't buy it, but it's always with me, so it's my friend," said the girl sadly. "I see," said Riaz, smiling at him. "Well, I'm leaving," said the girl, bowing her head. "Wait a minute," said the brown-haired boy. "What is your name?" he asked kindly. The girl was so embarrassed that she blushed and seemed unsure of saying it. "My name is Mayu," she said, looking to the side, embarrassed. "I see, would you give me your address or your phone number to compensate you for the trouble," said the brown-haired man. After that the girl got nervous and looked at them with sadness. "Excuse me, I'm leaving." After that she left with the puppy. Asia left the house as she was about to buy some bread that her Kiryu classmate had recommended her to try. Issei and Riaz went to the living room and sat down to get really serious. "You noticed," Riaz said, the brown-haired boy in a serious tone. "Yes, I have already felt my relative to follow her. I want to confirm it," she said, then went into a sadder tone. "I am sure that girl," she said helplessly and angrily. "I suspect the same," Issei said as his eyes glowed red. "Whoever did this will surely pay," the brown-haired boy said in anger and trembling at this. "I have no doubt about that, Issei, that girl has been through something horrible," Raik said from a corner looking at the pair. "This is considered an aberration what they have done to a poor creature, I speak Drake." "I have no doubt about it," said the brown-haired boy. With Keed. She was walking calmly with Nayu at her side when she noticed a pink-haired girl in a navy blue, almost black dress with a tie on her head covering her horns. "Hey, I guess you knew I was coming, right? I came to take you home. There's no point in running away. I've already reported our position." She lowered the bag she had in her hands, revealing a radio. "Are you going to kill me too?" she asked calmly. Nayu looked scared while Keed looked at her. She would look at Nayu out of the corner of her eye. "Go home, Nayu, I'll catch up with you later," she said seriously, and Nayu nodded, not very sure, starting to run. "Wait, don't go, Eva," the girl shouted, only for Keed to cut her off. "Don't you dare take a step or I'll kill you. Go home," Keed told her as she moved her vectors away from her. But she was silenced when a strong blow sent her to her side, making her bleed. "I still consider letting this go and leaving this as a casual meeting between family members, but if you keep insisting," said Keed, "it would be." The girl stood up with difficulty to see her angry. This hasn't hurt at all." The girl sent her vectors against Keed, but she dodged it by jumping a few meters, but was hit and thrown away by the impact of the blow, since she managed to be hit. Keed fell to the ground only to be hit by the girl's vectors and be slammed into the ground and dragged until she hit a wall and was held by the neck by one of the vectors. He sent his own to Ella, but they did not reach the girl. "Do you have a greater range than me?" Keed said angrily. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm going to punish you for dad, said the pink-haired girl. In fact, if I were serious I would have killed you 3 times, I would only need 1 hit. She fell silent when she saw several things being lifted from the ground into the air and thrown towards her, although she managed to dodge them. But Asia walked down the street happily as she saw a bakery that Kiryu had recommended to her, but she noticed the girl who had gone to her house earlier come out with a bag full of bread crusts. The girl saw her and apologized, running out followed by her puppy. Asia looked at the bakery and entered without noticing a certain brunette girl with strange clothes more similar to a cosplay. With Keed. So will you go back home? You can't beat me with such short arms, said the pink-haired girl who had to dodge some projectiles that were thrown at her. I guess he's stronger than me, huh? She said with doubt when she didn't see Keed where she was before without noticing that she was behind her, although she managed to dodge several projectiles in time and jump into the air, but was intercepted by Keed, who hit her in the stomach with one of her vectors falling to the ground and calling the attention of a certain girl who was eating bread crusts with her puppy who decided to go find out. Keed was getting tired of dealing with the brat who managed to shout something and is taking advantage of the situation by cutting off one of her legs and some of her fingers. Her leg then fell next to the girl who screamed in terror, only to be taken out of the place with a slight blow to her head and sat into the trees in the area, leaving her far from the place. Then Keed walked towards the pink-haired girl who seemed to be drowning her pain uselessly, and she shouted at her, "It doesn't hurt at all, ahhhhh," she screamed in pain as her arm was turned off. "Does it hurt now?" Keed asked her seriously and then saw how the girl began to crawl away from her a little while shaking her head and calling her father. Without further ado, she ripped off her other leg and her arm leaving her on the ground bleeding to death. "If it's too painful, I'll end your misfortune." Just at that moment a bullet hit the wall on her side right behind her. Nana said to a man whom Keed quickly recognized, but the girl attacked him with her vectors on her forehead blocking his. "Dad," said the dying girl. "I will never forgive you, Lucy," never, said the man accompanied by several armed men. "It's too late for number 7 and we haven't found Code Eva," said a man in a medical gown next to her. "What happened was your fault, I retired," said Keed spreading her demon wings and leaving there through a magic circle. "What the hell was that?" said one of the armed men. With Asia. The blonde returned home with several loaves of bread as she remembered what the bakery manager had told her about the girl who came to her house earlier, only to see Nayu run up to her and take her by the hand, leading her to the house, where they noticed Keed arriving in a somewhat dirty magic circle due to the battle, and upon seeing them arrive, she accompanied them to where Riaz and Issei were. Who looked serious when suddenly Riaz received a phone call from her relative. "The girl is in the hospital, Issei, can you go get her?" Riaz asked the brunette when the house phone rang and he answered. After finishing the call he looked at Riaz. "It seems I'll have to go," said the brown-haired boy seriously as he left the house. Keed looked at Riaz waiting for an explanation of what was happening, and she told her leaving the present in shock, which frowned at the description of said girl, and more at a certain detail that she did not notice when she saw her in her fight with the other Teclonius. With Issei. The brown-haired boy went to pick up the black-haired girl at the hospital and using his demonic powers, made the doctors forget that the girl had been there. He noticed that Kiba was there and apparently he would be in charge of eliminating the rest of the evidence, while the brown-haired boy took the girl to his house under the excuse of inviting her to dinner. Upon arriving home they went to dinner and noticed how uncomfortable she felt, so Riaz invited her to take a bath and well, the poor girl couldn't refuse. When she was taken by Asia and Nayu, Keed sighed at not having been recognized, but she was scolded by Riaz for involving a human civilian in demon matters. After being alone Issei, Keed and Riaz, he became serious and said. "I'm not sure if it was physically or psychologically, but I'm sure of one thing, that girl." He trembled in anger at what he was about to say, and even a few tears ran down his cheeks. "That girl was sexually abused," he said in a tone full of anger and pain. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.